All right, we're live. What's going on, everybody? I know no intro, no intro. I keep getting copyrighted for the intro. And so like every time the stream ends, I have to go back and cut it out and it starts to get annoying. Okay, I'll be honest. And also like the intro is really redundant at this point to get it. It's like our president is going to war in Iran. It's like it gets old. It does get old. So I'm working on a new introduction. I actually have a series of edits that I made. Yeah, I do edits that I made a long time ago, and I wanted to use them for like a little bit of an introduction to the stream. However, I noticed that YouTube has a lot of the songs in the background of those edits copyrighted as well. And so you can't play them for more than like 2 or 3 seconds without getting a copyright strike. So really got to be careful with that. But yeah, what's going on, everybody? It's good to be live. Good to be back. I know I was gone the last 3 days. My brother was just grinding, streaming. A lot of stuff that happened in these last 3 days. Really kind of more or less the same developments as it always is, especially on the topic of Iran. So, you know, not too much of a shift there. But I mean, we have some breaking reports. Obviously, U.S. forces intercepted multiple Iranian ballistic missiles and drones that were launched at the Strait of Hormuz on Friday, and then the ones that were subsequently launched at Kuwait, and I believe Bahrain as well. And that came in response to us hitting their coastline previously. And so, again, the same tit-for-tat situation that we've seen in the Strait of Hormuz previously is happening as of right now. Fox News reported on it. Maybe we'll react to one of the videos they spoke about. They were saying that it's not a violation of the ceasefire. It's like, bro, there's no more ceasefire. It's just arbitrary at this point. It's on paper for the sake of being on paper, but we're effectively still fighting against Iran. And then, of course, Israel has ramped up in Lebanon. No surprise there. And actually killed some members of the official Lebanese army. This morning, I think it was 3 or 4 Lebanese army officials or soldiers actually were killed. And that's not Hezbollah. If you don't know, Hezbollah is the proxy group that is connected to Iran. They are the militant faction that represents the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. And what had happened was, I don't know if they mistook them for the wrong people or whatever, but it received global condemnation. I believe Egypt condemned it. Several other countries like Saudi Arabia also condemned the attack, killing the Lebanese army soldiers. So big issue there, and we'll talk about that. We have a story on that. And then also the Pentagon is now saying that they're ramping up on paying attention to Israel because of concerns of espionage. It's like, bro, been there. Like, you're late. You're like, you know, like 50 years late. So we'll talk about all of that. But there's a lot to get into. My brother had a fight on his show last night, which is really funny. I tweeted about it, and the tweet actually kind of went viral. Let me see if I can pull it up here. But yeah, that's what we have. So, and look, the real significance now, just with that story in Lebanon, before I go into this video with my brother, because we'll start the stream off on a little bit of a lighthearted note. And oh, also, Tears and Pistols, thank you so much for the 5 gifted. Forgot about that, my friend. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Big support of the show, always showing love. Shout out to you. Someone said bro's looking blacker than usual. All right, nigga, you want to get shadow realm? Relax yourself. Nah, I am. Nah, it's true. You're right. You're right. I dropped the lighting here a little bit. So, because it was like I was washing myself out in a way. Like, I think that it was a little too bright. Me and TPC worked on it. Shout out to my guy TPC Films. He specializes in like studio lighting and background and aesthetic. Speaking of that, this light is the wrong color. Wait. This is supposed to be like orange. He told me how to do this. I always forget. Oh my, wrong light. No. Fuck. Now, well, no. No. This one's supposed to be purple. Wait a second. Wait, we should play around with this. Which one do you guys like? Red? Red's pretty wavy. Hold on. Let's see. What if we make this like red too? All right, that's a little demonic. I don't like that. That's unsettling. Let's see. A little horny too. Like that's for when shorty's over. But we don't do that, haram. Okay. All right, I gotta fix this. I gotta fix this. Hang on. Should I turn the camera off? Or should I? Here, give me 2 seconds. Let me fix the lighting. Sorry, okay? I'm sorry. How do I turn this off again? OBS had an update. Wait. Okay. You guys still hear me, though. Hang on. Let me fix this. Oh, my God. I just turned rainbow mode on. Literally, no. Fuck! This is so stupid. How do I turn this off? Holy. This has like 40 modes. One sec, guys. One sec. I'm here. If you're just tuning in, I'm just fixing my lighting. I'm coming right back. Oh my God. I just want a solid color. All right. This is so... You guys think this is funny? Everybody's laughing in the chat. This fucking light is so stupid. Okay, there we go. Hang on. Might be cooking. No, I don't want this color, bro. Mode? Function? No. Oh my God. No! How do I change the damn color? I never do this, clearly. Is it auto, speed, mode, function? Alright, it's just gonna have to stay blue. I can't figure it out. How the hell? One sec, guys. Hey, while you're waiting, maybe send in the super chat so I could read it. Ha ha ha. Yeah, we're totally gonna have to cut this out the stream. Speed. Oh, I got it. Let's go. Okay, I got it. Okay. Is that the right color? Okay, it is. Whew. Cortisol's through the roof. Okay, I don't ever mess with that. Someone said BLM podcast. All right, I'm not reading the chat anymore. You guys are dead ass bullying me. I don't ever mess with the light because it's always the same. So when I start the stream, I just like hit the on button and like they're all preset, but I changed it and like I've never actually messed with that. All right, anyways. Don't I have a super chat? Anyways, do you guys like the lighting though? It's these are expensive lights. These are kind of expensive. They were on Amazon, but they were pretty expensive. What do you call them? RGB, RBG? I don't know what they're called. But yeah, this one is blue always. It's like a light blue, but it doesn't show up that way on the camera because it's not really like, it's not reflecting correctly on the camera. It's like a cyan blue. That's purple. And then I have the orange under the desk. Anyways, really, at this point, I'm tired of talking about lights. All right. Let's see. Tears and Pistols, again, thank you so much for the 5 gifted. We're going to get into all the news right now, guys. We're going to react to some clips on Twitter, and then we'll get into all the good stuff. Dominicano, member for 2 months. Shout out to you. Dominicano. Thank you so much, my friend. Ryad says, what's up? Thoughts on Albania Kushner protests? Yeah, that was crazy. I saw some of that. I don't think we'll have time. That's a little bit of a smaller story, but yeah. Protests in the capital of Tirana because of the fact that Kushner wants to make these like vacation getaway resorts along the coastline of Albania. What do you call it? And the Albanians were not going for it. I must say, I love Albanian people. Got a couple Albanian people that I know in my life. They're good people. And historically, like every single time I've met an Albanian, it's always been a pleasant experience. So, rock with my Albanian niggas. You know what it is. Is that how you do that? Shout out to Albania. We love Albania. And Albania loves us. Shout out to Albania. Based Muslim country. It's not a Christian country. Nah, it's like 50-50. A. Luzaj says, what do you think about these Albania protests? Okay, somebody asked that already. But yeah, it's crazy. W Albania, Kushner's a maniac. That's what he wants to do with Gaza too. They all want to turn these shits into vacation getaways. You know? Jared Kushner, the guy with no official position in the White House. So, But anyways, let's see what we got here. So this happened last night. You know, I was just chilling with the niggas, watching the Knicks game. By the way, Knicks in 4? Knicks in 4, guys? I don't know if you're watching the NBA Finals. I don't watch NBA like that, but because of the fact that the Knicks are in the finals, I've been watching a little bit more, like paying attention to what's happening. And, you know, my dad's been a Knicks fan for like 100 years. And he's really happy about this. My mom and dad are both Knicks fans, and they're really happy about this. And like everybody where I live, I'm not far from New York. I'm in Connecticut. So everybody here is from New York, either that or they're a Knicks fan because of the proximity. But people are hyped up, man. Where I live has been active. You know, people have been outside. So, yeah, W Knicks. We'll see what happens. I think Knicks in 5. But anyways, niggas was just chilling, you know, in the Matrix, having a good time watching the game. And this clip popped up. I actually quote tweeted it. I got like 600 likes. No, I got 400 likes. But the other tweet got almost 600. It's pretty funny. And a fight broke out on Fresh and Fit. Now, I don't know how much of this I can really play on YouTube realistically without the video getting limited. I don't think it's that crazy. She didn't do much. So we'll go ahead and pull this up here. I thought that this was super funny. Let me organize this stuff here. Screen share. All right, there we go. So this here is obviously the show from last night. Bradley Martin was on. Shout out to him. And this girl attacks this girl. For what reason? I don't know. I don't have any context. I don't know if she's talking shit. I'm sure a lot of you guys were watching, so you can tell me in the chat why she attacked her. But super unprovoked, crazy. We'll do the news. I know. I don't want to do too much drama here. But this was like really funny. So they're kicking her off. They're saying, thank you for coming. And just watch. This is crazy. Like, this is crazy. Just watch this. And look at my brother. He's literally a gentleman. Look, he's concerned. Myron hates women. Your brother is literally the worst thing that's ever happened. Do you know how many people know? Because people see me in the streets and they're like, oh, I saw that clip of you. Dude, your brother's crazy. I've had girls be like, oh, I don't like your brother. And it's like, what do you mean? My brother's the best guy. Look at this. Literal gentleman. Gentleman, bro. See, and here's the thing. It's all fun and games when the camera's on and the mics are on and everybody's going at it. Men should get married at this age and girls shouldn't have this many bodies. You know, they're doing the Fresh and Fit. That's what Fresh and Fit is. It's a great show. And, you know, everybody's getting into it. And then Myron gets into his mode and he's like, well, here's the thing. Let me tell you about this. And then he cooks and now everybody has this false perception of Myron. Myron is and I know, it's like, okay, you're his brother. But Myron is actually a very good person. I am telling you that from firsthand experience. That's my brother. Myron is arguably a more moral human than I am. And that's the true lore. Like, people don't know that. But that's the true lore. And a lot of you are going to watch this and go, Ryad, what? Like, Ryad, what? You're crazy. I'm telling you, he's actually a good person. When he meets fans in the streets, he drops everything for them. Like, literally stops what he's doing. We'll take photos. We'll talk to them for 20, 30 minutes. Always very gracious. Always very nice. If you've met him in person, you know this is true. And me, of course, if anybody recognizes me in person, I'm the same way. Which rarely happens, but it happens here and there. But, you know, like, I'm just so much more of a cynical, crude person. Like, I'm just like, we'll be on the phone and we'll be thinking about stuff and talking about stuff. And I'm just like the evil one. I'm really the evil one. He's actually a lot more moral than I am. There is like an evil kind of vengeful part of me. And he doesn't have that at all. He really doesn't have that at all. So, God bless him. But yeah, look at him protecting the girl. And this is true male instinct. This is how you know he's a true man. This is essence of a man. Even when a Foyd is saying some bullshit. You know, bitches over there talking about, I can have 30 bodies and still have a family and still have an OnlyFans and you got to pay for all my bills and you got to pay for my nails. Despite the girl saying that, I'm not saying this girl said that. I don't even know what she was saying, but I'm just being funny here. But despite all the disagreements, when the girls are in danger, Myron takes charge. if you remember, if you've been watching Fresh and Fit for a long time, there was an instance where these like guys that used to work with them came with an intent to attack. They didn't come with weapons, but they were at the front door, and I think the guys came with weapons. I can't remember the story. If I have him on tonight or tomorrow, he'll actually tell the story. And all the girls were like terrified, and he pushed them on the balcony and like organized the situation, took control of the situation. So, you know, it was funny. Because, like, obviously he's concerned. You know, he feels bad. The girl just got attacked for no reason, unprovokingly attacked. No surprise there. And, you know, my brother stepped in and ensured she felt safe. So I thought that was funny. You know, everybody's always, oh, Myron. Like, Myron's a good guy, bro. Like, if you fall for the shit on Fresh and Fit, and it's not an act. He really does believe that. But, you know, there is a certain character. There's a certain persona that you have to take on when you're talking to these girls. God knows, I know, you know, you cannot talk to these girls like a civilized person. They will walk all over you. You have to genuinely enter this Myron mode. We call it Myron mode because he's really the pioneer of telling these bitches to shut up. But you have to enter this mode where there's like 6 or 7 girls at the table, or maybe 8 or 9, that oppose your entire ideological basis, your set of beliefs, and you have to dismantle all of the different talking points that they're going to propose every single night, 3 times a week. He's been doing it for years. You can't be Mr. Nice Guy. Well, I disagree with that. No, you have to, hey, bitch, shut the fuck up. This is what it is. And, you know, you hit him with the facts. You hit him with the facts, and I'm sorry that I'm cursing. I'm just quoting Myron, okay? But, you know, it is a rough thing to do every single night. So that's why he can be a little bit abrasive or brazen, whatever you want to call it, with these girls, but he really means well. He's really a good person. Anybody who's met him will tell you that. He's very soft in a good way, not soft in a pussy way, like very soft person, delicate person. You know, he cares about people's well-being. And I know I'm doing this whole like, oh, Myron. I am actually doing that. Like, I'm like, but it's true. It's true. Like, you can see it in the times of danger, in the times of desperation. Look at him. And then so somebody, we'll watch the rest. You heard Myron? Oh, is it muted? It's muted. Sorry. You guys probably heard it faintly from my headphones. Here, I'll play it one more time with like the sound really coming through the stream. Here, I'll put my headphones on. I'll stop being lazy. So, we'll watch
show.
What
the fuck?
Batman shit, you know what I'm saying? And then I think he promotes his chimping out merch.
I've had a feeling about that.
Pretty. It's alright.
Oh, bro,
okay?
she literally went.
You okay?
I'm good. You good? I'm good.
You sure?
Are you sure you're okay?
Yeah,
I have a. I just
Is it bad that I was gonna reach for my phone?
Hey, yeah. It's a good thing you got brought here. She didn't land. She barely landed anything.
Yeah.
She kicked me still, but still.
What is she, Ukrainian, right? She has like an Eastern Europe accent.
Alright guys, shit. And they wonder why they have the stereotype.
Alright guys, we're on YouTube. Come on guys. But yeah, so that's what happened. And so you know, I tweeted, I said, you could see it on the screen right here. I said, and they say he hates women. You know, like, look at how much of a gentleman he was. And then somebody put this picture up of him as Superman. Like, all right, bro. And I was like, Myron, man. I tweeted that earlier. I'm literally at the gym. I tweeted that earlier. It kind of went well. You got like 16.5K views. But yeah, I thought that was funny. And then this stupid Floyd over here. I don't even want to cortisol max right now. But yeah, so that's what happened last night. If you weren't watching Fresh and Fit, which I'm sure many of you were, that was kind of the situation. That was a situation on Fresh and Fit, you know. But, you know, Myron's a good guy. Myron is a good guy. I'm telling you, bro, I'm worse. People always say, oh, Ryad, go on Fresh and Fit. I'd probably be meaner than him. Maybe not. I think I'd be softer just because of the fact that, like, I'd be new to the show, so I wouldn't be as fed up and frustrated with the girls because I haven't been doing that for years. So I'd have a lot more patience for the bullshit. However, if I did it to the capacity in which he does it every night, all the time, bro, I would be even worse. Honestly, Myron is super nice for the repetition in which he does that show on. He does that show like every day, bro. That's a crash out invoking show. Like that show will bring the worst out of you. Talking to 10 stuck up Miami broads who have OnlyFans accounts every single night in front of thousands of people will make you a very frustrated, short-fused person with little to no patience for bullshit. So I always think it's funny when people are like, oh, well, you know, Myron. It's like, he has to be that way. He has to nip these bitches in the bud. He has to really be aggressive. And so that he can actually effectively get his talking points across and he can dismantle these things they're saying, because people may say, oh, but we get it. But there's tens of thousands of people watching. They may not get it. He has to break down all these arguments. So it's important. And it's a stressful job. It draws away from you. But as a result, it helps a lot of men out. So anyways, Sagno Sprite says, can you listen to Pistachios by Brent Fies? I think you'd like it. I don't really like Brent Fies, to be honest. Thank you for the super chat. I'm not crazy about Brent Fies. Music's too slow. I don't mind slow music, but like Brent Fies is like too... I'm not going to lie. If you're a guy listening to Brent Fies, like, little sus. That's a little sus. And one of my closest friends listens to Brent all the time, and I cook him for it. It's like, bro, why? Like, turn this off. I honestly think men who listen to Brent Fies are LARPing just so they can get female attention. Okay, I said it. I'm sorry. I think they're LARP. Someone said El Ryad. I just can't. No offense to Brent Fies. Not like he'll ever see this. It's too slow. That's like sex music. I can't. You know, I'm driving on the highway, bro. I'm listening to Rio the Young OG, nigga. What am I listening to? I'm listening to Drake. I'll listen to Drake. But even on Drake's recent 3 albums, he had Iceman, he had Maid of Honor, and he had Habibti. And Habibti I didn't like. Not because it wasn't good. It was good. I must admit. Objectively, it was good. But for me, subjectively, it's not my style. I just can't listen to that slow music. Like, I've got to be heartbroken or something. You know, I can't do that. But a lot of Drake's music on his recent album is like upbeat. It almost has like a house element to it. I really love house. I've been getting into house lately. I can't do, you know, Brent Fies. That's like sex horny music. I can't. So, not to like shit on Brent Fies. I'm sure he's a good guy. Massad's Honeypot says, Black Huz always making us look bad. Yeah, bro, it's like, what are you doing, baby? Shorty, what are you doing? She was belligerently drunk, which is why I think she got kicked off in the first place. But it's like, bro, you're not helping. Every time, bro, I see a video of a brawl in a mall and it's like 15 black kids, or I see like Daytona Beach shooting, or I see a spring break riot on Ocean Drive. I'm just like, oh, like they don't make it easy. They don't make it easy. And I pay for that. Nigga, I'm black, nigga. So, you know, I'm the one paying for that. 40-year-old white mom gets pushed down to the ground in the midst of a brawl at a shopping center, and then I'm behind her in line at Zara, and she clutches her bag tighter, and it's like, but I don't do that. I don't do that. So, yeah, they had to kick her out. Black Huz. I need me a black hud, or I need me a black wife. Facts. I need me a black wife. I need me a luscious Sudanese black wife. A little bit lighter than me, preferably. With nice full lips. Traditional values. Knows what to do. Knows what I want. Doesn't talk a lot. That's what I need. That's what I need, nigga. Angela, welcome to the squad. Is it Angela? No, Angel Alvarado. Sorry, bro. Angel Alvarado. Thank you so much. Welcome to the squad. Appreciate you, bro. Welcome. Appreciate that. Yeah, I need me like a... You know, because people are always ripping on black girls, but really, like, I think some black girls are pretty. Everybody's like, Ryad, you're not... It's like, all right, bro. I just think some are pretty. Like, they're pretty, you know? I will be honest. It's not my first, like, you know, if I'm looking at girls, I like Middle Eastern girls more, but like Arab girls, but Sudanese women are really pretty. And I know everybody's always like, oh, my country, but it's, yo, you don't know. Sudanese girls are baddies. Some baddies from Sudan, from the homeland. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, hey, I'm going to gatekeep, actually. More for me. Need me a black queen. Yeah, but the niggas going crazy, bro. Niggas always making shit hard for us. Niggas always nigga-ing it up. Then it's impossible for us. Someone said he wants his laundry done. Exactly. So you're paying attention. You know ball. I can't be doing that shit myself. Cooking, cleaning, laundry. Are you crazy? Bro, I literally pick clothes out my dryer every week. I throw my clothes in the washer and then I throw them in the dryer and then they're dry and I'm just like, I'm not folding that shit. You're fucking crazy. I'm literally like this, hands on my hips looking at the dryer. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do that shit later. Go to the gym or something. Find something else to do. I will literally go to Target and buy skincare products and like walk around and do nothing before I fold clothes. I cannot do it. I'll do the next 5 feminine activities before I actually fold clothes. I like cannot do it. I'm like over here leaning against my chest and shit, you know, putting it on the table, organizing it, putting it in the stupid drawer. If my mom came to my apartment right now, she'd have a seizure. She'd be like, Ryad, what? Clothes disorganized. It's hard. It's tough, bro. It's tough. A man can't do it. Dishes are not the worst. Laundry is like, bro. Laundry's crazy. And I'm a brokey. I'm poor. I can't pay someone to do my laundry. I need a huh. Girlfriend applications are being sent out. Okay? Nah, just wife applications, okay?
Haram!
No girlfriends. All right, anyways, I got to get serious, bro. There's a lot of serious stuff to cover. I'm sorry. Cam 2 times says, I met Myron at USC a year ago. He's a really cool guy. As a black man, I don't claim that crazy black bird. That was uncalled for, what she did to that girl. Yeah, that was nasty. That was crazy. I didn't like that either. That was disgusting. I felt really bad for that girl. And my brother did too, which is why he ensured she felt safe and everything. Myron Man. He's not Myron anymore. He's Myron Man. Myron Man. So, yeah, it was crazy. Crazy clip. But anyways, we'll get into the news. Lots to talk about. Let's pull up this first article here. And this is by Fox. Gotta love Fox. Really, not even an article, but just a little bit of an update as to what's been happening in the Middle East, primarily the Strait of Hormuz. This is out of U.S. CENTCOM. They said they intercepted 6 Iranian ballistic missiles fired towards Kuwait and Bahrain after American forces struck Iranian radar sites on the coastline as tensions continue to rise amid stalled negotiations between Washington and Tehran. Fox News foreign correspondent Jeff Paul reported from Dubai that Iran launched 7 ballistic missiles towards the Gulf allies after CENTCOM forces shot down 4 Iranian one-way attack drones and carried out retaliatory strikes on radar sites in Goruk and Keshem Island. Not the first time we've hit these places. Officials in Kuwait are describing those recent overnight strikes here in the Gulf as a serious escalation, Paul said on Fox Report. CENTCOM said 6 of the 7 missiles were intercepted while the 7th failed to reach its intended target. Former CIA station chief and Fox News contributor Dan Hoffman said Iran appears to be trying to drive up the costs of the war for the United States by disrupting trade through the Strait of Hormuz, escalating Hezbollah strikes against Israel and targeting Gulf allies. Iran feels like that gives them the added leverage, Hoffman said, referring to domestic political pressuring facing the Trump administration ahead of the midterms. And really, what we have here is more or less the same of what's been happening. And I apologize if this is going to sound similar to the last few times that I've reported on this, but maybe I'll talk about everything from the beginning. We'll see how I kind of get into it or attack it. But same story out of CNN, really. More or less the same situation. We'll get into the Lebanon situation a little bit more intimately in a moment here. I have a New York Times article that I like to read, and I'll go into that. But I mean, in regards to the U.S.-Iran war, honestly, does anybody see this ending anytime soon? And the reason why is because we have no escalation dominance. If we had escalation dominance, we could bring the conflict to a stage where we would have to make Iran bend the knee. But they're not bending the knee. They're actually starting strikes now. They're hurling drones into the Strait of Hormuz. And as a matter of fact, you'll see global oil tick up after that. And that's the power that Iran has, and they're demonstrating that power. That's the most important thing. It's not that they're doing it. Maybe they know even that these drones will be intercepted, but it's the fact that they have the wherewithal and the guts to actually deploy drones into the Strait of Hormuz or missiles or whatever else it is and disrupt these oil vessels that may actually intend to pass through. Whether that's through U.S. military aid, which was previously tried with Operation Freedom and failed on its face because Saudi and Kuwait said no, or anything else, Iran has control of the Strait. That we know. And that's the biggest fact on the ground right now as to why we can't get a ceasefire. Because we want the Strait of Hormuz open, but Iran actually wants a guarantee of no more war, not only in Iran. They want a guarantee we won't hit them again. They want their frozen assets given back to them, a lot of their money unpaused and given back to them. They are not going to agree to get rid of all of their nuclear enriched or their enriched uranium, their highly enriched uranium that is at about 60%. They're not going to get rid of it. They're not going to downblend it. They're not going to destroy their centrifuges. And they're also not going to come to some concession about a peace deal or a ceasefire if Lebanon keeps getting hit. Why? Because Lebanon is home base for their strongest proxy group in southern Lebanon, that being Hezbollah. And so currently, if you haven't been paying attention to my last few shows, Israel has ramped up its operation or its offensive against Hezbollah dramatically ever since March and really February when this all started, to the point now where they actually control territory that they had not had control of in the last 26 years. Like the Belfort Castle and everything really south of the Litani River has now become kind of this buffer zone, this IDF support zone, and so that they can continue their operation south of Beirut and anywhere else really. And so now Israel has launched statements to evacuate from where you currently are if you're in southern Lebanon. Lots of villages have been displaced. Lots of villages have been told that they must leave their homes, vacate the premises, and if they don't, they'll be hit with Israel airstrikes, something that we've seen several times before. And so, like, it's just no possible way that we'll get a ceasefire. People are always going, oh, maybe we're close. You know, the war is dragged on. It's like day 98. I believe it's really day 98. I'm not even kidding about that. We're about 100 days into war. And so you would think after all this limbo and stalemating and talks, we'll be able to reach some sort of agreement. But it's like, hey, Lebanon is a brand new feature that's introduced here. And remember, on April 8th, Israel hit Lebanon with 100 strikes in the morning. And the death toll in Lebanon ever since March 2nd, get this, is 3,500 people. These are non-combatants. And so the civilian death toll in Lebanon is also very high. That's considerably high if you take into the fact that Lebanon is not even directly involved in this war. Lebanon itself, the country, the entity of Lebanon. And obviously you have Hezbollah, but we can't keep doing this, oh, but Hezbollah, oh, but Hamas, Hezbollah, because then we have a Gaza genocide where 100,000 people die. And so you would think with the new integration of the United States military and Israeli military per Section 224, which we'll get into in a moment, and all of this advanced technology and Palantir and all these AI systems and these complicated drone systems that have been ramping up in technological advancement ever since the Ukrainian war, and that's the new style of warfare, you would think like Israel, of all people who have direct military support and direct funding from the United States, has the wherewithal and the ability to kill these Hezbollah militants without killing civilians in tandem. But no, they can't do that. They bomb an entire village. They bomb an entire block if it means killing one insignificant commander. That makes no difference in the grand scheme of things. And it's symbolically to suggest that there's no red lines and they will stop at nothing to make sure they have control of southern Lebanon, because southern Lebanon is home base for Hezbollah. And if Hezbollah has an advantage, that vantage point really of southern Lebanon, everything south of the Litani River or even north of that, in that entire province and any municipality within southern Lebanon, well, they have so much more ability to deploy rockets at northern Israel, which is what we saw in the beginning of March and even mid-March. They have so much more ability to hold off the IDF. And the ultimate goal of Israel, obviously everybody knows, is to take southern Lebanon at minimum, right? They want to annex that portion of land and make it their own. And they say it's so that they can defend their home country and establish their borders a little bit stronger. And they're the smallest country, one of the smaller countries in the Middle East. But really, it's part of this larger project to really take over not only southern Lebanon, but of course, as we know, and I've spoken about this several times before, Gaza, the West Bank. They want to annex these. The Sinai, they want it as well. That belongs to Egypt, and they'll probably get that at some point in the future. And I don't mean to be demoralizing or nihilistic or anything like that, but we have to really be real with ourselves. Israel is likely going to get these things. They're going to achieve these goals. Why? Because the United States backs them. It's that simple. It really doesn't get more complex than that. And as a result of their mission and their goals and how ambitious they have been met with fierce resistance, like Hezbollah, like Hamas, like any other groups in Iraq, maybe that belong to the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or our proxy groups of Iran. It's difficult, but they'll make it work. And the biggest thing for Israel is that they had to start this war with Iran sooner than later. And the reason why is because during that 12-day war that we saw last summer, almost a year ago now, can you believe it? We launched, or really Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, and as a result, there was a 12-day war, and Iran was hitting Israel and Tel Aviv and several other places, I think Haifa as well, with their ballistic missiles. They showcased their ballistic missiles, some of them being hypersonic. The first time that Iran ever really showed the world what they were capable of from a military perspective in recent history. And so that kind of set off a lot of red alarms in Israel, and they went, wow, we have to actually take care of Iran before they bolster up and stockpile that missile arsenal any deeper or any further than it already is as it exists in Iran. And so Donald Trump step in, he hits the 3 nuclear sites, Natanz, Fordo, Isfahan. They paused the war, really stop it. But that was a guarantee that they were going to start the war back up and ensure that they can destroy Iran before they get too strong to where they couldn't deal with them anymore. You fast forward, and now we had the situation on February 28th. They brought Trump to actually agree and start the war in Iran. U.S.-Israeli joint strikes on February 28th, whatever. And this is the biggest goal for Israel. This is why I always rip on Trump, because this was the one red line that Trump could not cross. If he did it, he was going to give them everything he wanted, or everything they wanted, sorry. And what's the proof to that? What is Netanyahu now telling the world? What is he telling 60 Minutes? What's the idea that's vaguely, but surely catching momentum now as I sit here and talk to you? It's this idea that Israel will be independent of the United States. And you really got to think about this. Israel is the strongest Middle Eastern country because of the support of the United States. Obviously so. There's no secret there. But if they're saying that they don't want to depend on the United States anymore financially, and that's what Netanyahu said, he said he wants to draw down U.S. financial support to zero, well, then that leads one to believe, or at least think and speculate, well, what's Israel's plan without the United States backing them? I mean, they pose a moral hazard to us. They drag us into so many issues. And so for us, that's like a good thing. It's like, oh, wait, great. But it's like, no, you got to pay attention. They've got to have something set up in their system, in their plan, that will allow them to be strong without us. And if they're as strong as they are now without us, that's a threat. Because now they're no longer an ally, yet they retain the same capability. What are they going to be after that? I mean, let's not forget what Israel has done to us historically. They blackmailed us. They've sabotaged us. They've dragged us into disasters. They blackmailed nukes against us. They have an unacknowledged nuclear program, largely because of us and Nixon. And so they use us for their own good, and they put us in bad positions, and they've dragged us into the war in the Middle East, every single war that we've seen so far. But now everybody's talking about this new defense pact that is growing, or at least has caught a lot of wind of not mainstream media, but a lot of people online. And that's this whole Section 224 nonsense, which pretty much guarantees the United States and Israel will have this joint security plan of, AI systems, weapon systems. And so people are reading it and they're going, oh, this is like the military is combining, in which it is, but a lot of Zionists are trying to debunk that and saying, no, it's a defense pact. It's a cooperative initiative. And it's like, no, it's not. It's really just the militaries integrating with one another. And if the Israeli Defense Force, or the IDF, Israel as a whole, has their teeth sunk into the U.S. military to the point where we share intel intimately, deeper than we already did. We share weapon systems, AI systems, technology intimately, to the point where we operate in synonymity. We are one essence, really. We're one entire force. It's no longer this coalition. It's like one joint thing. Then that will ensure that they have more influence than they already do. Don't you see that? Don't you see how catastrophic that is? Let's not forget, in 2008, Mossad posed as the CIA with fake passports and fake US dollars and went to these extremist militants out of Pakistan from a joint or a separatist group called Jundullah, which was like this Islamic separatist group, this weird sect of Islam. And they told them that they were the CIA, but they were really Mossad agents. They had fake US passports, fake US dollars, and they tried to bribe them and really get them into attacking Tehran. And that story, front-facingly, would have been the CIA paid militants to attack Iran, and then Iran would have struck us as a result. That was the plan, at least. And we've seen that several times before. And so, like, you think about USS Liberty and all these different things. What would Israel do if their military and our military were deeply embedded like this? I mean, you can think about this for days, and we can come up with all the theories we want. But one thing we can certainly generalize and we can conclude with is it would be catastrophic for the United States, because people are already at awe, really, at how much influence Israel has, Israeli lobbyists and all this good stuff. They talk about Thomas Massie and they talk about all these different things. And these are big developments. I've spoken about them. This is huge and that's concerning. But this is really scary. and it's not getting nearly as much mainstream coverage as it should. And, this is the trick, and this is what the advanced Zionist agenda is. Everybody has now woken up to the fact that Israel has a large amount of influence inside the United States. There's no secret there, okay? The United States considers Israel its greatest ally. And as a result, we've gone to war in Iraq to topple Saddam Hussein. We've done moves in Syria to destabilize. And now we have former kind of CIA spy Ahmed al-Shara, who is in power. And what does he do? He prevents Iran from transporting weapons to southern Lebanon, which is beneficial for the U.S., but primarily Israel. And everything else, Libya, we've done all of their dirty work. And so we say they're our greatest ally. They're the only democracy in the Middle East. So if we can keep their sovereignty, we can flex and really administer U.S. influence. But that's not the case. They administer and flex their influence in our country. And as a result, they have a large amount of control in the Middle East, to the point where several countries that border them do not like them, but would never go against them because it would guarantee an attack and war and regime change. Who's more powerful? I'm sorry, who's more powerful? The United States, who says, hey, Mexico, you can't give Cuba oil or we're going to tariff you. Or Israel, who says, if you all attack us, we're going to nuke the fuck out of this entire region. I mean, who has more power? You tell me. And the Middle East is a little bit more of a pivotal region. You got the Strait of Hormuz, which we see the effect of being closed. Kuwait has not been able to transport any oil. The Strait of Hormuz is blocked. We try to blockade the blockade. That's how much it's hurting the world. Asia's going to run low on oil. Europe's going to run low on oil. They already have, actually, as a result. Everything has skyrocketed in price, even here at home in the United States, due to the price shock. We might have a gas shortage in September. Which actual region is more pivotal to have control in? I think it's the Middle East. I don't think it's here. The United States has gotten everything squared away, or a good amount of things squared away here on our side of the world. And we're a hemispheric power. We're a global power. We have tons of influence inside of South America, and we're going to take over Cuba and whatever, and Canada's not to worry about it. But Israel is really moving miles in seconds. They are really moving the needle. And it's a matter of time until Iran can no longer fight back. They have tons of time in them. And as this conflict sits, I'd even argue that this may be a multi-year conflict. I don't think that it's going to end anytime soon. And Iran has full-on resisted. They're not willing to concede. And so if they can't agree and we can't agree, a tale as old as time, right? This is how history works. There's war. And Iran has displayed the ability and has really led the example that they can withstand U.S. aggression for years. They can. And that's because if we hit them, they hit the Gulf. And the Gulf can't defend themselves. The Gulf countries are militarily weak. They don't have the ability to defend their airspace. Our munitions, our anti-ballistic missiles program munitions, and all that stuff in the region is running low. And so we're having to grab THAAD systems from South Korea and things like that in order to mitigate the problem as we're stretched across the region. I've said this several times before. And so Iran has the ability, and that's one fact, but there's several other facts that I've always spoken about. But we all know Iran has the ability to stay in this war for a long time. This war of attrition, this asymmetric war. And at the end of it, sure, maybe the story will be that Iran was defeated, but who's really defeated if we had to fight them for 10 years? Who's really defeated if we had to fight them for 20 years? Look at Iraq. How many casualties did we suffer as a result just to turn Iraq into this power vacuum of several different factions trying to fight for power? And the country is still largely unstable to this day because of U.S. intervention in 2003. So that also makes Israel really strong. This all ties with what I'm saying. And now we have this Section 224 nonsense. I mean, things are only going to get worse. So this here is by The Guardian. And, I'm picky with where I'm getting this news from. But we can just read a little bit of this and then we'll watch a video on it. Congress wants to tie the United States to Israel with this new legislation. It's a trap, whatever. Congress is considering legislation that would embed Israel's military deeply within the U.S. military-industrial complex. Stunned by the catering of public support for Israeli policies in Gaza, Lebanon, and the West Bank towards Iran, Israel's advocates are frantically seeking to preserve and even escalate U.S. support for the Jewish state in ways that do not rely on defense of its policies or permit scrutiny of the manipulations involved. Politically, this means avoiding public discussion of Israeli policies in Gaza, Lebanon, and the West Bank of Iran, and disguising the sources of massive amounts of money pouring into election races to defeat candidates raising questions about U.S. support for Israel. That's already happening, really. The proposed legislation shows what this means bureaucratically. And so we continue on. News of Section 224 of the National Defense Authorization Act, a section that would deeply intertwine the U.S. and Israeli militaries by committing to bilateral research and development, co-production of weapons, joint ventures, licensing agreements, and unprecedented integration of the U.S. and Israeli weapons industries, triggered an immediate backlash led by representatives like Thomas Massie, Ro Khanna, and Marjorie Greene actually spoke about this as well. This is not in the article, but Marjorie Greene had a comment. The origins of this addition to the defense budget tells us much about how Israel's lobby pursues a foreign country's interests, even as 60% of Americans now hold an unfavorable view of Israel. And that's the thing. And you don't think Israeli officials know this? You don't think Netanyahu knows this? He knows this. He knows it more than you. And he's noticed it quicker than you. TikTok is, I'm telling you, I'm a user of TikTok. It's largely the same as it has always been. I mean, yeah, I do see a lot of pro-Palestine content. It's lessened, but I still see a lot of pro-Palestine stuff. I see a lot of anti-Israel stuff. And so like Larry Ellison owning TikTok is only doing so much. You know, it's a fleeting gain to try and take control of the media. It's a fleeting gain to censor people because they just go watch their favorite creator on Kick. They just go to Rumble. They just go to alternate platforms. They go to X. And so kind of censoring people on talking about Israel negatively is not going to work like that. It just has not worked in the last few years. And Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated in September, had told Benjamin Netanyahu a few months prior in a letter to him, an intimate letter that he wrote to him, get this, that you need to win back the media war. That is one of the fronts of this war against the entire world that you're losing. That's like the 8th front of this war. At the time, Israel was fighting a war on 7 fronts or something like that. And the media war is important because all of the youth are coming, and this is Charlie Kirk saying this, all of the youth are coming to me at my college events and asking about Israel and 9/11 and AIPAC and all this stuff. And it's because you are not suppressing or really battling this rhetoric online. It just sits there and it collects a lot of momentum and it's popular to talk about. And I can't be the only one to dismantle this propaganda. And so he's telling him, you got to fight back. But obviously, owning the media really is not going to do much. We understand that, at least from what we've seen so far in these developments with all these new owners and Paramount and everything like that. And so the biggest thing that matters is actually embedding Israel into the U.S. military to the point where there's no turning around. Embedding Israel to the point where they can flex and impose their influence on us without an attempt of really being public, or without it seeming public, without anybody having to know about any large donations of money or anything like this. I mean, what does this mean for the future? There's a lot of ways this can go, but ultimately it's negative and it increases their influence in our military and our legislation greatly. And so, you know, all of these things are to be thought about and to be spoken about, but it hasn't really caught in the mainstream attention that it deserves. And like I've said, with all of the things that Israel has done to undermine us and make us look like the bad guys and drag us into war with Iran, with the passport situation of Jundullah and Mossad in 2008 and all these other things, what are they going to do when they have this, you know? Really concerning things that one must think about. But we can continue with the article because there's a few more good things to read here. In February, the representatives Don Davis, a Democrat from North Carolina, and Ronnie Jackson, a Republican from Texas, introduced the United States-Israel Framework for Upgraded Technologies, Unified Research, and Enhanced Security Features of Act of 2026, alongside companion legislation in the Senate introduced by Senators Ted Budd, a Republican from North Carolina, and Kirsten Gillibrand, a Democrat from New York. Israel's lobby prominently endorsed and lobbied on the legislation. Obviously, no surprise there. The Foundation for Defense of Democracies, a pro-Israel think tank originally incorporated as Emet, the Hebrew word for truth, and committed, according to its founding's IRS filings, to providing education to enhance Israel's image in North America and the public's understandings of issues affecting Israeli-Arab relations, advocated for closer integration of U.S. and Israeli militaries and weapons research and development in December. A report beyond U.S.-Israel MOU, the case for a strategic partnership agreement. 2 months later, the Foundation for Defense of Democracies was the only outside validator for the legislation's on Davis 19 February press release. The United States-Israel Futures Act builds on decades of successful collaboration by improving cooperation across the public, private, and academic sectors to swiftly develop, test, and field defense technologies that will help safeguard U.S. service members and provide Israel with the means to combat a diverse set of threats from foreign adversarial states and terror groups. And Tyler Stapleton, a senior director of government relations at the FDD strongly supports the bipartisan United States-Israel Futures Act. So, Crazy, crazy stuff. AIPAC also reported lobbying on the U.S.-Israel Futures Act on Capitol Hill. No surprise there, as well as the Department of Defense in the first quarter of the year. While neither the House or Senate legislation made it out of committee, the same legislative architecture and much of the same language appeared in Section 224 of the NDAA, buried deep within the 505-page draft legislation. In short, AIPAC and the FDD were successful in moving their unpopular legislative agendas forward, even as both the U.S. and Senate bills remain stalled in committees. Make no mistake, the intent and the consequences of this legislation, dubbed the United States-Israel Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative, go far, far beyond the sharing of the military technology that traditionally has attracted so much support among senators and Congress members. So, you know, it can go on. It talks about AI and all this stuff. I mean, you can use your mind and really, because largely, I mean, what does this all mean? Like, well, what does it mean? You know, and I'm kind of simplifying it for you guys, but you know, that's really the conversation, is like, what does this mean? And from a surface, we know it means far more influence and power than they ever had before, which is already way too high, you know? So it is what it is. And this is like, I saw this on Twitter. I saw this exchange and I thought that this was really interesting and insightful. You know, oops. So this guy tweets, the misinformation around NDAA Section 224 is actually impressive. The hate-filled accounts are banking on you never reading it yourself. No, Section 224 does not fully merge the U.S. and Israeli militaries. That's ridiculous. It simply creates an office to better coordinate bilateral tech cooperation, expand joint R&D, and build on existing close ties for the benefit of the United States military. All right, so you just said the same thing twice. It does actually merge them completely, if anything. But, you know, whatever. And this guy responds, he says, Section 224 isn't a harmless partnership. It embeds Israeli influence into U.S. military tech via AI, cyber data fusion, and co-production. That risks U.S. sovereignty, creates dangerous dependencies, and exposes secrets to a partner with a history of harming America, USS Liberty, polar espionage, and all these other things that I spoke about with you guys just a moment ago. So, you know, you gotta love it. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. So when Netanyahu says he wants to draw down the financial support to zero, what do you think plan B is? It probably is that. It's probably that. So, man, I'm thirsty. And Trump spoke on Air Force One too, so we'll react to that. I think that's going to be good. But, and also, you know, Patrick Bet-David and Hassan, or Mehdi Hassan, went at it as well. If we have time, we'll get into that. And so this segues perfectly into this other article that I was going to read. Let me just read some super chats very quickly. Seaside Jew, thanks for the $1. Mike Heads says, have you seen Hunter Biden for 2028 stuff? I'm right wing all day, but his words and posts are looking really legit, to be honest. I have not seen it, to be completely real with you. We'll see though as time goes on, but I really doubt I'd ever vote for Hunter Biden. We'll see. You never know. Seaside Jew, $1, thank you. And then Seaside again says, do you think what's happening now is biblical? Yeah, in some way. You know, look, the whole biblical thing has its place. Me and Sneeko spoke about this too. And Sneeko was talking about how this is all eschatology and this is end times. And for a large part, look, Islamically, we believe that there will be an antichrist. Al-Masih ad-Dajjal, right? Al-Masih, Messiah, ad-Dajjal, the deceiver, the false Messiah will come. And Jesus Christ of Nazareth, son of Mary, will come and kill him when he reigns terror upon earth for, I think, 40 days. That would feel like several years or something like that. I can't remember the hadith specifically. A lot of you guys probably know what I'm talking about, or the narration. But look, I mean, you know, this is what I will say is biblical, something that is parallel to Quranic eschatology, or really Islamic eschatology and Christian eschatology as well. Israel will be the big bad bully in the Middle East. They will be the main power. They already are, but it will be largely more obvious than it is now. It will be the country. And if that means in terms of how they expand and their expansion project is successful, God knows best. But I mean, yeah, a lot of this is biblical. I think these are all very small pieces that are leading to eventually something that will be eschatological, something that is a sign of end times. Because look, what do they want? I got to be a little bit careful about this stuff, you know, given the platform that we're on. But, you know, this is what they've said. They want to sacrifice the red heifers. They want the third temple. Ben-Gvir does not lie about this. This is what they say. And so when they build that third temple, that will be the grounds for the ritual in which the pure person who has never come in contact with death, the pure rabbi, I'm not sure what it is, will use these ashes or be purified by the ashes of the red heifer that was sacrificed, the 3 red heifers, I believe, that are perfect and unmarked. And he will do whatever he needs to do to bring about the initiation of their Messiah. And from an eschatological point of view for Islam, that would be al-Masih ad-Dajjal, or the Antichrist. And then that would be a major sign of the day of judgment. Do I think that that's like right around the corner? No, I don't think so. Who knows? I don't think that's right around the corner. And what does right around the corner mean? I don't think that's in my lifetime. It could be. I hope it's not. I don't want to live through that shit, but it could be. You know? But that's what they want. And where that third temple is supposed to be, the Temple Mount, which Ben-Gvir always visits with his entourage and is provoking about, or he provocatively and always antagonizes these Palestinians, provocatively always talks about how he is going to bring about the third temple and things like that. You know, that's where Masjid al-Aqsa is, which is the third holiest site in Islam, and they want to get rid of that mosque, and they're hollowing out the ground from under it. So it is kind of a matter of time. You know, clock is ticking. People can say this is a conspiracy. Like, go look at it yourself. You know, the Jordanians have no influence anymore inside of the temple. And Masjid al-Aqsa is not just one mosque. It's an entire compound. They want all of that. They want all of that. So it is certainly a conversation that is worth hearing. It's just like you got to be careful because some people get too into it and they're like, end of the world's tomorrow. And it's like, brother, relax. But there is something to it. There is a biblical aspect to it. I'd be completely lying if I said there wasn't. Good nigga for master sends $1. Thanks for the super chat. I've given you a check for that name because that's hilarious. Angel Alvarado says, did you watch your brother with Tim Pool? And Tim Pool was saying that Trump was blocking the Strait on purpose. You know what? We can watch that. I saw some of it, and boy, it was tough to watch. I was going to react to it live, but I didn't get the chance to. So we can watch that. Let's read this article, and then, you know what? Let's read this article, and we'll watch Tim Pool with my brother. I know they kind of debated at one point, honestly. Let's see if I can get that on cue while we read this article together. And there's 700 of you guys in here, I believe. So please, if you have not already liked the video, all right, I really appreciate all the support. And while I've got you here, I've got you captured. While you're here, follow the clips page. Give me the 2K. We're at 1,992 followers, almost 2,000 followers. We're uploading clips on here. We're spamming. Clips haven't been bussing lately. Meta hates me. Anybody got the meta method? Can I get more views, bro? Like, what? Some of these do well, kind of. Like, oh, damn, 64K. But, like, these just be flopping. So, but it's a slow grind. Slow drip, baby. So, yeah. Follow that if you have not already. That's Ryad Pilled on Instagram. You know, follow the socials. My personal Instagram if you want to follow. Keep up with me. I'm about to turn it into a fitness page. It's personal Instagram. Know what I'm saying? Check it out. I call it a fitness page because, like, bro, this is all I'm posting. Wait, you see that, though? You see that? Boy, looking shredded. No, I'm not shredded. I'm currently like 193 pounds. I got some ab veins. You can't see it here. I'm also bloated. I had McDonald's last night. Don't blame me. I folded. I had McDonald's last night, so I was really watery today. But, you know, good little pump. Good little pump. Know what I'm saying? So I might just make it a fitness page because literally all I'm posting is pump videos, pump pictures. Kind of corny, actually. But anyways, all right. So this article, right? So this is out of the New York Times. It says Pentagon sees growing espionage threat from Israel. Really? Really? Do you think that Israel espionage? Really? You think Israel had too much intelligence on us? Really? Fucking Sherlock Holmes over here. Who figured this out in the Pentagon? We get Sherlock Holmes. Whoever figured this out, give them a raise, because we didn't know this before, you idiot. Oh my God. We see growing threats of espionage from Israel. Really? I'm not trying to be, I got to be a little more professional, but it's like, I read this article and I'm like, bro, okay. Okay. Step in the right direction, though. Step in the right direction. All right. Anyways, so it says, recent U.S. intelligence reports have raised concerns about Israeli spy agencies eavesdropping on American negotiators working on a peace deal with Iran amid rising concern over a more general counterintelligence threat by Israel. Israel and the United States have long known and tolerated that each was spying on each other, but an intensified Israeli effort to learn about U.S. positions in talks with Iran has crossed a line, according to some American officials. The reports include concerns that Israel has stepped up its efforts to eavesdrop on senior American officials, including Stephen Witkoff. I mean, he is one of them, really. President Trump's top negotiator, Elbridge A. Colby, the Pentagon's top policy official, and one of his main deputies, Michael P. DiMino. Another report written by the Defense Intelligence Agency and other military intelligence offices and focused on earlier events going back several years, said that the counterintelligence threat level posed by Israel had been increased in recent weeks due to the top level from high to critical. The report, to which the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency contributed, outlines various efforts by Israel to spy on American military personnel and government officials. The reports and the intensified concern about Israeli spying come at an especially sensitive time. Israel and the United States have been fighting the war against Iran together and have never had such close military coordination as they do now, with Israeli military officers working side by side with their American counterparts at U.S. Central Command, or U.S. CENTCOM. The U.S. military is sharing huge amounts of tactical and operational information with its Israeli counterparts, but senior American officials said that Israel is looking for insight into Mr. Trump's strategy and shifting stances on the peace talks. And I mean, like, really, we knew this was what it was from the beginning. Let me just adjust this so you guys can read alongside with me if you please, or if you want to. The new warning could potentially complicate efforts to further integrate military war planning between U.S. Central Command and Israel, especially if the Pentagon makes a decision to place new restrictions on information shared with Israeli officers. There has already been tension between the two nations as Mr. Trump pursues a peace deal, even as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel seeks to further degrade Iran's capabilities, weaken or topple its theocratic government, and assaults Tehran's proxy in Lebanon, Hezbollah. Really, not only the proxy, but Lebanon too is what he's assaulting. The Defense Intelligence Agency report was drafted after incidents in which American defense personnel in Israel detected that software to tap their communications had been surreptitiously installed on their phones. The existence of the Defense Intelligence Agency report and the increased threat level were reported earlier by NBC News. The Defense Department declined to comment. A White House official speaking on the condition their name not to be used said the account was false. A spokesperson for the Israeli embassy in Washington also disputed claims that Israel poses a counterintelligence threat, saying that Israel does not spy on American officials or entities. Yeah, all right, buddy. The developments were described by several current and former U.S. officials speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive intelligence matters. They said that in some respects, the counterintelligence warning is no surprise. Israel has long engaged in aggressive intelligence collection operations against both its enemies and its allies, as does the United States. Still, Israel's counterintelligence threat level is now higher than any other ally and higher than some adversarial countries. Of American allies, only South Korea, which is rated at high in certain situations, approaches the concern with Israel's espionage efforts, the officials said. So, the aggressiveness of the Israeli intelligence collection on top of U.S. officials during the second Trump admin has unhinged, one senior official said, or has been unhinged. Two senior U.S. military officials said that American personnel, particularly those serving in Israel or with Israeli counterparts, were well aware of the counterintelligence risks before the new report. The officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss internal assessments said U.S. personnel employ a range of security procedures and protocols to help counter the threat and to protect their cell phones and other electronic devices, especially while traveling in Israel, but declined to describe those measures in detail for security reasons. Cooperation between the two militaries is very close, but each side also needs to keep its most sensitive information secret. And continues on here, but this is largely irrelevant. This is the whole point of the article, or this is the biggest point here. And, you know, I mean, where's the surprise? and Washington says, oh, don't worry, it's false. It's like, you really believe that's false? We have so much more reason to believe that's true here in the United States, given the history of everything that's happened. And Marjorie Greene tweeted about it, former congresswoman. She said, the Pentagon raised threat of Israeli spying on the U.S. to the highest level, and AIPAC is openly cheering Republicans for Section 224 in the NDAA that merges our military with Israel's military. Our government is being captured. And AIPAC actually responded here. No, the truth is hard for you. The White House categorically denied this report. This entire story is false, and source is someone who doesn't have any knowledge of what's going on. That was a quote from the White House, and, you know, it asked Grok and everything. But here's the thing, and someone put this here. This section would require the Secretary of Defense to designate an executive agent responsible for synchronizing cooperative efforts between the United States and Israel, including bilateral defense technology, research development, testing, evaluation, integration, and industrial cooperation. To me, that sounds like two militaries working together. What do you guys think? I mean, really, what are we doing here? What's with the word salad, word play? Like, we know what it is. It's categorically false. That's not what it says. Technically, it's only a combination of cooperative efforts on the basis of. It's like, no, they're working together closer than they ever have. That's what it is. That's why the legislation is there in the first place, because there is a benefit to it that they don't already have the benefit of. There's something they want access to that they don't have access to. That's why there's increased security. That's why there's increased spying. That's why there's this espionage now, because there is more that they need that they do not have. And this is the situation with Israel. They always take. They need so much more from us. They don't get enough hegemony in the Middle East. They try to destroy Iraq, and they do. They destroy Libya. They've had a hand in actually helping the UAE destroy Sudan and Syria and all these other countries that have leaders now installed that would never dare test against Israel. And you have the Abraham Accords, and you have all these Gulf allies that have pretty much normalized relations largely with Israel to the point where they would never defy them, especially militarily. And Israel just says that's not enough, actually. We have to spy on the United States harder than we ever have. We have to drag them into a forever war with Persia, and so that we can actually have control in southern Lebanon, so that we can annex the Gaza Strip without any resistance. And it's like, bro, they just take, and they're going farther and farther. And it's going to get to a point where you're going to begin to really notice Israel has not only influence, but it's going to be power. Like, it's always been the situation of influence. That's what it's always been. You look at the clean break memo, you look at everything else from the late 90s and the early 2000s and the Gulf War, it's always been about their influence. And that has been largely felt. Everybody knows about that. But now it's going to be a situation of power. I mean, the U.S. military and the Israeli military working this close, paired along with their stellar intelligence system and intelligence program, because the Mossad is that. It's insanely effective. That's power now. That's no longer influence. And that's what they want. Because with the influence comes the public eye. With the influence comes lobbying. With the influence comes the scrutiny of everybody online. All the voices that have been critical against Israel. Tucker Carlson has joined the cause. Megyn Kelly has joined the cause. Candace Owens has joined the cause. These are very big voices. These are mainstream voices. These are not alt voices. And so you think, and there's more that I'm not even thinking of. But you think about that. Israel understands, for the large part, they have to circumvent the matter. It's no longer paying people and getting people out of Congress and unseating people like Thomas Massie to send a message, because that kind of riles up the crowd and doesn't work in their benefit long term. Short term, certainly it's a win, but long term, it's an L. And so now there has to be this joint integration so people can never reverse the effect Israel has in the United States, and they can use what we have without asking us for it. They can use what we have for their own benefit and eventually get to the point where they can steer clear of us, no longer have to join any sort of force and military capabilities and technologies, and then maybe even defy us in the next 20 or 30 years. Who knows? So that's the concern, is like, this is going to give them power more than influence to me. And that's where I'm worried, because it's the influence that they have. But so long as we have somebody in charge who will tell them no to the right things, their power is limited. Israel goes to Barack Obama, Israel goes to George Bush, Israel goes to Joe Biden, Benjamin Netanyahu, whoever it is, and they say, please strike Iran. Iran is a hotbed for terror. Iran funds proxy groups that threaten our borders and our sovereignty, whatever it is. And all these presidents go, look, we'll give you the weapons, we'll give you the money, we can do something here and there, we can threaten Iran, we can exercise a little bit of brinksmanship. We are not bombing Iran, you know? And so there was always a cap, do you understand? With now this new legislation of 224, there may not be a cap. I mean, President Trump obviously is an idiot and made the mistake of starting the war in Iran for no reason besides serving Israel's interests and distracting people maybe from Epstein and maybe something else in there. I don't know. People say cutting oil off from China. You're retarded. You know nothing. But, you know, you think about all of this. The next person in charge could be a Democrat in 2028. And what have Democrats done? They've forced the Trump administration to acknowledge, or they've tried to force the Trump administration with the legislation that they posed to have Israel acknowledge their nuclear program. Gavin Newsom in the beginning of the war said that we're fighting this war for Israel. It's stupid. Several Democratic people in Congress and senators have said this war is largely unneeded. It's unnecessary. And they're against it for the most part. You know, the pendulum has to swing in the opposite direction at some point, which means the United States will have little to no sympathy for Israel left. If there is any as we speak now, there's really little. Remember, everybody in Congress and all these senators are 80 years old, 70 years old, 60 years old. These are all boomers, you know, or most of them are boomers. But Tim Dillon said something really interesting on his show not too long ago. He said the difference between Gen Z and Gen X or millennials or anything like that is they refuse to be subject to propaganda. They refuse to be brainwashed. They question everything. And so sometimes you see people go crazy with the conspiracy theories and they take it too far. They drag it on. But the benefit is we can't be lied to. You know, we cannot be lied to. There has been this growing anti-Israel rhetoric. People are tired of their politicians being subverted by Israeli interests and taking Israeli money. And so, of course, again, like I said, Israel knows this, and they're going to beat us to the punch. They're getting the legislation in order. Trump is the last guy who is going to allow Israel to flex their muscles as much as they can, especially here domestically. The next president, for a very good reason, may still, of course, support Israel, but put a cap to their power like the previous ones obviously had done. And so Israel, understanding this with the most crucial war that they've ever been involved in, the war with Iran, the strongest enemy they've faced so far, knows they have to plant seeds now and so that they can access a great deal of power despite Trump not being in office, because Trump is synonymous with Israel. He is literally Israel himself. He worked hard with Israel, and they're synonymous at this point, to unseat Thomas Massie. He also is threatening to revoke visas of people who criticize Israel or say free Palestine. Look at all these things that Trump has done. He's increased the surveillance state. I mean, he's done really nothing for the American people as a whole, but the biggest issue now, besides the raised gas and the raised goods and all these issues and the insider trading, and we could talk about all the corruption, the biggest issue is the war in Iran. That is the biggest issue that we will pay for on a long enough time scale. Everything else can be somewhat remedied or repaired within the next few years. The Israeli-Iran issue, that's one that is for the books. And when it's all said and done with, in the next 20 or 30 years, people are going to look back and go, man, the Iraq war was a mistake, but Iran is even worse. Iran is a far worse mistake than starting a war in Iraq. You know why? Iraq was not that powerful. Iraq was not that strong. Iraq didn't have a complicated ballistic missiles program. Iraq didn't have a very capable drone program. Iraq didn't have nuclear or enriched uranium to the level of 60%, which is just 30% away from weapons grade. Iraq didn't have any of that. And that's why we started that war in that false pretext, weapons of mass destruction, which the United Nations had actually debunked in 2008. But Iraq didn't have that. Iran has all of that. Iran also has a geostrategic advantage, being that they occupied the Strait of Hormuz. That is their waters. And so they can block that too. So Iran has the missiles, Iran has the drones, Iran has the guards on the ground, or the IRGC has 250,000 armed guards on the ground ready to fight. We haven't even crossed that border yet. We haven't even gotten to that point yet. That step may come. I pray to God it doesn't come. And they have likely at this point, who knows, a nuclear bomb. Who knows? Maybe they made the nuke while we started this war. They've had a 60-day buffer period since the ceasefire. What have they been doing with their uranium? Are they just looking at the 60% enriched uranium like, wow, that's really pretty? Or are they ramping it up so they can defend themselves if this happens again? And this is the foe that Israel has now created and has to face. They have to make sure while Trump is in office, they can do something so they can set themselves up for the next 4 or 5 or 6 years if there's another president that ends up getting in office that is not so favorable to Israel. And by the way, don't worry, they're probably going to ensure that doesn't happen. But in case it does, Section 224 sits nicely for them, and they'll wipe the dust off of it if they need to utilize it. And this is what they do. They are phenomenal at it. They're thinking 7, 8 steps ahead. Because you would think right now, what's the point of conjoining the militaries and everything? The U.S. military has done everything for Israel these last few months. We started a war in Iran. It's because Israel can see what's coming. They're looking in front of them. They're looking high. They're aiming high. You know, in driving school, they say aim high, look ahead, see the traffic. Israel sees the traffic. They can see what's going to slow them down. And so what's very important right now is planting these seeds. And this is what that legislation precisely is. So I thought that was awesome. Tim Dillon, he said, and he's got a big show. He said, you know, I like him. I think he's pretty funny. He said Gen Z refuses the propaganda, and they really do. And we see it. We see it. Charlie Kirk used to be at his tables, and he would go to all these large campuses and draw out these crowds of thousands of passionate students, but he would always get stumped with the Israel question. And you'd see the Palestinian Christian step up to the mic and go, well, I'm a Palestinian Christian. And Charlie Kirk says, oh, well, right on, God bless. And it's like, yeah, you don't know what to say now. So increasingly, the concern for Israel is becoming unanimous. And the young people have now taken over the cause. They've now led the charge. They have now spearheaded the awakening. So, you know, that's that. That's that, nigga. That's that, nigga. I think I got some chats. Let's see. Got some chats here. But yeah. All right. Let's see. And by the way, Pakistani mediators are in Iran right now. What's that going to do? Who knows? Yeah, we'll watch my brother with Tim Pool in a moment. We got a lot of stuff to react to. Bree Powered says, keep up the great work, Ryad. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yusuf Ali says, 1,500 human DNA found on McDonald's burger. Is that true? 1,500 different human DNA found on McDonald's burger? Why are you trolling? Punch that into Google. False claim of human meat in McDonald's factories. What was this, from COVID? I never even heard about this. Bro, enough. McDonald's is busting. Okay? Thank you for the super chat, though. Albo A says, W. Ryad, what do you think of Kushner wanting to buy Albanian land and all of the protests that are going on out there because they don't want Israeli occupation? Well, Albanians are based. Albanians are fighters because of what happened to them in the 90s. Bosnians and Albanians are fighters. And, you know, people always say, oh, Albanians are so aggressive and they're so mean. It's like, yeah, bro, because they got genocided like 10 minutes ago. Like, that conflict is still very fresh. So, you know, Albanians refuse to be occupied. They refuse to be controlled because they know what happened last time that happened. Or they know what happened last time they saw a sign of that. So, you know, and they also see what's happening around the world. You know, so they can read between the lines. But, yo, the protests, we can actually take a look at one of these. The protests in Albania and Tirana, right? Let me see. Were crazy. Look at this. Albania, and this was a few days ago, Albania is erupting for the second consecutive day in angry mass protests against the Kushner land seizure worth $4 billion. Look at all these people. Good luck, Jared Kushner. Good luck with that. So yeah, based. We love Albania. Protesting in NYC as well. Good for them. Honestly, good for them. Good for Albanians. Good for you guys. Fight for what's right. Fight for what's yours. It's the most honorable thing a group of people can do. Fight for what is yours. We love Albania. The Albanian people, they're the greatest people. We love Albania. One Chest says, W-Abs, Myron's predictable custom fat loss plus monthly Zoom calls with Myron accountability. Yeah, guys, check out the trainer that represents me and my brother and the official trainer of the OSS My Brothers community. That is One Chest 8-Pack Trucker. He offers very personalized training programs, diet programs, everything like that. If you need somebody who needs to give you a kick in the ass, tell you what to do, how to train, how to eat, which a lot of people could use because a lot of you are fat, unfortunately, then get with One Chest. He will hook you up. And One Chest, if you want to pop that in the chat, I'll go ahead and pin it for you, my friend. So go ahead and pop your training link in there. And if you guys need a personal trainer, hear it from me or money back guaranteed. This guy will get you in shape. I've seen a lot of his work. He does great stuff. So shout out to One Chest. PFF says Iran has the potential to be worse. Thanks for the show. Thank you so much for the 10. I'm not sure what you mean. Iran has the potential to be worse. Like the conflict is going to get worse? Yeah, it is. It is. They're disrupting the Strait. They're trying to start shit up again. And Trump refuses to acknowledge that the ceasefire is over. So not a good sign. Not a good sign. But let's see here. Let's see. Did we want to react to the video of my brother and Tim Pool first? You guys want to start with that? You guys want to start with that? I had a Fox video I wanted to react to. And there's Trump. There's a lot. There's a lot. We'll start with this and then we'll see where it takes us. We'll play it by ear, yeah?
Well, I would like to see that, but I leave that up. Look, I have a very talented guy. I leave it up to Kevin. But I've always said, and I've said it for years, when you have a country that's doing well, the market should go up. The market should, and the reason that...
All right, so that fitness training link is pinned. Again, if you need a personal trainer, a coach, get with One Chest. He'll get you right.
They go down is if it's doing well, people have said, oh, we have to stop inflation. And it doesn't mean inflation. In fact, it could be just the opposite.
So if a hike before the midterm elections mean they're
Remember that we saved $600 million every point. You know.
Why do you want Bill Clinton to cut the...
Say it?
Why do you want Bill Clinton to cut the office of the Director of National Intelligence? How long is he going to be in that role?
Depends on how long it takes to get somebody approved. He'll do a very good job. He'll watch it.
Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard's out of there because she did not want a war in Iran. Remember, last year in March, if I remember correctly, Tulsi Gabbard said Iran has no threat present. They're not going to make a nuclear bomb. So Trump needed her out of there because he had to keep up with a lie that was not true. Or, you know, obviously a lie is not true, but he had to keep up with this lie that everybody was believing. But, you know, she was against it. Joe Kent had stepped down because of that. So we'll see who fills that position.
Closely, but Bill Pulte's very good. He's very talented. Done a great job at Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. The value there is close to $1 trillion. We built a value that's incredible. So he's done a very good job in that. He'll do a good job. He's watching for, you know, during this time period.
And you want to cut the number of people working there?
I wouldn't mind. I've heard that's way too high for way too long. Yeah, I wouldn't mind. If he cut, I wouldn't mind that.
Sir, on artificial intelligence, are you considering the possibility of the U.S. government taking stakes in some AI companies?
Well, it's something. I did it with Intel. So I made a deal on Intel. You know, I made for the country $50 billion. We took a stake in Intel, was given to us by our helping. I said, look, we'll help you, but you have to give us 10% of the company. That was Intel just 9 months ago. And as I think you know, we made about $50 billion on that deal.
Would you want to do it?
I did a very good job. I should be a stockbroker.
Yes, sir. I'm going to change the subject if you don't mind. Did you get a chance to watch Game 1 of the NBA Finals? What do you think?
I did. Well, I'll be going to Game 3, I guess. It's
Oh, yeah. So Trump is going to Game 3 of the NBA Finals, which, you know, a little bit more Matrix Goyim talk. But I think that's interesting. When is Game 3? Game 3, Knicks. When is that? So that's going to be... All right, bro, not the playoffs. Finals. Google, are you serious? All right, so that's Monday at 8:30. Monday, June 8th, the Spurs play the Knicks in Madison Square Garden in New York. Trump will be there. Interestingly enough, I bet you the crowd is probably going to boo the shit out of him. As we know, I don't think New York City is the biggest fan of Trump as a whole. Let's see. I think the Knicks tweeted something about it, right? Let's see if I can pull this up. Yeah, okay, so here's their statement. Check this out. So it says here, as we move closer to Game 3 of the NBA Finals on Monday night, Madison Square Garden and the United States Secret Service want to help ensure a safe and enjoyable experience for all the ticket holders by sharing important security procedures that will be in place. A strict no-bag policy will be in effect, and fans should make every effort to limit personal items to an absolute minimum. Fans should expect enhanced security measures when entering Madison Square Garden, including TSA-style screening procedures. Guests are strongly encouraged to arrive at least 2 hours before tip-off to allow additional time for screening and entry. Fans are encouraged to review the complete list of prohibited items before arriving. They have the link right here, secretservice.gov. There will be no storage available for prohibited items brought to the venue. So, very interesting. Trump's going to be there, probably courtside. I love Brunson. Brunson's the best. He's a good lefty shooter. That kid, I tell you what, that kid's good. That kid.
Game 3 on Monday, I thought it was amazing. I think the Knicks have an amazing team, the way they played. Started off slow, and it just got stronger and stronger. Wemby looks like he's going to be a great player, but they really played well, I thought.
Quick follow-up. Did you see Wemby crossing his arms during the U.S. national anthem? Did you have any thoughts on that?
I did not see that. Is that what he did?
He did, yes.
What did he mean by that?
Nobody asked him.
Who cares? Isn't the nigga French?
Well, I guess you have to ask him.
Well, who's your favorite Nick?
Well, Brunson's fantastic. Towns is fantastic.
Brunson, I
Just
told you. Brunson's the best. I loved it. Okay. No way. I love Jalen Brunson. Brunson's the best.
Team.
What do you think that the game you're going to, the cheapest price for the game 3 you're going to is $8,000? Everyday Americans can't afford these sports.
Well, I know, but they can watch it on television. It's sort of semi-free to watch it on television, but that's the way life goes. You have some, and now if the game wasn't a big, if the team wasn't a big success, you could go very easily. So.
All right. I don't know what they're. If anyone's got an interesting question there, send me the clip on X or something, because nobody cares about that. All right. So let's see my brother's debate with Tim Pool.
Your argument in turn, which is acceptable if that's your argument, I disagree with you. Trump's got an emotional issue.
It's not just an emotional issue, it's a political thing too. If he walks away from this, here's the thing.
Well, what does he need to win for? The midterms are procedural at this point, and he can't run for re-election again.
He has an ego. I think we can all agree that he has an ego. And then also on top of that, it's about power, projection of power, right? Our entire military infrastructure is based on projecting power. If we leave now with our bases destroyed in the region, them controlling the Strait of Hormuz, them being able to get money from the vessels that go through, it's an enormous declaration of a victory. Also, they're running an asymmetric warfare. So if Trump leaves right now, it's going to be a huge political loss, and it's going to destroy his legacy and make him look horrible.
Yeah, how is that hard to understand?
I really believe he believes I'm the.
This ceasefire's cooked. It's like, you know, they're not going to stop attacking Lebanon.
It is cooked. And what are the Fox News broadcasters saying? They're saying, oh, the ceasefire is still in effect. Everybody's getting word for no reason. And it's like, you guys are trying to make it seem like there's still a ceasefire so Trump doesn't get screwed with the oil market, you idiots. You're trying to keep the stock prices stable. You're trying to keep everything low. But you know what's happening is Iran is hurling drones into the Strait, and they're brutally reminding Americans they can stock up and really make this a disaster at any point, whenever they want. And they've been stocking up. They've got tons of missiles. Per U.S. intelligence, they're at about 75%. So it's like, bro.
Their casualties are high. I got some pretty trusted sources. Casualties in 3,000. They're around 3,300 as of May 29th, with Hezbollah being in the same range, around in low 3,000s. So there's no way. And they've made it the furthest it's ever made since 2006. So that campaign in southern Lebanon is not going to end anytime soon. You know, so this peace deal is like cooked. And I think Trump is kind of starting to realize, like, what are we going to...
I think Trump wants the Strait closed on purpose.
You think so?
Yep. That's why he took Venezuela before he did this, because they knew.
Well, that was the plan. I think his plan was
China's cut off from half of their imports, and the U.S., they bombed the out of the drug dealers in the Caribbean because they're clearing shipping lanes for Gulf oil to leave the United States. Then they took Venezuela. Then they closed the Strait. If these things were all coincidental and accident, Trump slipped on a banana peel and did a backflip.
Yeah,
and that's what I think the strategy was. The strategy was take Venezuela, create pressure on Cuba, give it a few months. Obviously, they're going to go into an energy crisis like they are now. Go into Iran, 96 hours, bomb them, make them capitulate. They won't have the ability to close the Strait. because their government is going to topple. We have our Mossad operatives in there. Let's go ahead and lead a revolution. He thought it was going to get done in 96 hours. Didn't happen. This is why he had the China summit planned for late March, early April, and he ended up having to keep delaying it. Then he was going to circle back, take Cuba, have Venezuela, have Cuba, have Iran capitulate, then go to ping, hey, I control 2 countries that used to get discounted oil from, Iran and Venezuela, and Cuba, your number one intel resource.
That was exactly the goal. That was exactly the goal. You know, the United States is in this aim. All right, let me fix these. The United States is in this aim for being a global oil hegemon. That is loosely one of the real goals here. If it's not the main goal, it's definitely taken second or third place. And it's obvious, you know. But cutting off oil supply for Venezuela that goes to China and Cuba, I mean, it's insignificant. Cuba, yeah, that's a big deal. But for China, like I've said before, we all know that China runs on coal, and a lot of their oil is from Iran anyways. Largely, it's because of Iran that they actually have tons of oil right now, and they get it for cheap because of the sanctions that we've imposed on them.
Source, or one of your main intel resources, because Cuba is like very good for counter intel on us. One of the things that they do, they sell intel on the black market all the time. And we got Cuba as well. Let's go ahead and negotiate. That's what I think the plan was, but obviously the Iran war took a lot longer than you expected.
Right now, we're becoming one of the biggest.
Remember, Trump thought Iran was going to be 4 or 5 days. It's been 97 days, chat. Nearly 100 days at war.
Exporters in the world. We're a net exporter for the first time since World War.
And that's why it's beneficial for them to say, oh, don't worry, there's a ceasefire currently, because if we've been at war for Iran, or we've been at war with Iran for 100 days and we have not won, that's embarrassing. So we've got to make it seem like there's some sort of pause. There's no pause.
Or 2, and Trump keeps yo-yoing these peace deals. He doesn't need to do this.
Yeah, the U.S. doesn't. The U.S. doesn't, or like the whole. Like basically,
yeah, we don't need the oil.
Yeah,
like, that's true.
But I'm saying the peace deal, it's like every week is like, we're going to get it, and then it stops. We're going to get it. I wouldn't be surprised if him and his buddies are putting shorts on the market, and Trump's lying about the Strait and the peace deals.
Yeah, he has been lying. He has been like.
Well, there's been a lot of insider trading, but a large part of the reason as to why he's been lying as well is because he's able to calm down the global oil market as well as NASDAQ, the S&P 500, so on and so forth, really Wall Street as a whole. If Trump goes on Truth Social and he says, I've been speaking with Iranian officials for the last 12 hours, and we have a deal coming around the corner in the next 48 hours. Everything is looking good in Tehran, looking forward to peace, etc., etc. Iran has agreed to XYZ, so on and so forth. Well, then he can kind of mitigate a lot of the damage that he started or the issues that he has exacerbated by starting this war in the first place. So that's really the reason Trump is a mouthpiece to kind of calm these prices. But that has proved ineffective these last few weeks because people have now caught onto the bullshit. It's like the boy who cried wolf. You can only lie so many times until people understand why you're lying. And that reason of his lies have largely become clear now for the American people. So when Trump is saying, don't worry, we got a peace deal, and then a Navy destroyer gets chased out of the Strait of Hormuz and we start bombing their coastline, and then they start hitting Kuwait and they start deploying missiles and we're intercepting them and things like this, people are not stupid. They're eventually going to catch on at any moment now. So that's ineffective at this point. And I mean, pay attention to my streams and what we've been covering. It's been less and less of us reacting to what Trump is saying on Truth Social because he's become a little bit less vocal. If you remember in March and April, Trump was doing a lot of yapping and jibber-jabbering, saying, don't worry, we got this under control and Iran is begging for freedom or diplomacy and whatever. And now it really hasn't been much talking because people are going to stop buying it. So it's just a lot more of strikes and kinetic action going on in the Strait of Hormuz, less updates from Trump and really what's happening. And they've made it unclear. If you've been following the issue of Iran without watching somebody like me or anybody else, you probably will be confused. And that's because the media is lying. Fox is saying one thing, CNN is saying another, intelligence is saying another, Trump is saying his own thing, and Iran is saying something. And you got to read all of these sources and pay attention to what everybody's saying and draw your own conclusion. So
wants it close. China lost half their energy. They're on the verge of Europe and China are.
Most of the energy comes from coal. China, they're not as oil dependent as us. I think like 65 to 70% of their oil energy resources are made by coal.
But their military runs on oil.
Yeah, but like China's not out here, starting wars like we are.
No, but it puts pressure on them when it comes to
the Belt and Road Initiative is entirely dependent on their ability.
Yeah, but they get a ton of oil from Iran. What are you guys forgetting? And their vessels can still pass through the Strait for free. Iran is tolling every ship except the Chinese one. If China is supplying Iran with radar systems and military weapons and intelligence and God knows whatever the hell else they're giving them, Well, then why would Iran not allow Chinese vessels to pass through the Strait of Hormuz for free? Why would Iran not give China extra oil for a discounted price, which they already have unintentionally because of U.S. sanctions? Venezuela, like what does Venezuelan oil have to do with China? What was it, 3-4%? We got to use our brains here.
To give energy to foreign countries.
Sure, but like they're still getting oil through. Iran is still letting Chinese vessels get through and getting their energy requirements met. I think this war has been like a monumental L for us from a strategic standpoint.
No sense. If this was the case, Trump would just be like, okay, we're done.
Well, he can't do that.
Why not?
Why?
Because he needs a political win to save face at this point.
I disagree. He can lie.
Yeah,
he's been lying, and he keeps getting caught in it. Like,
but it doesn't matter at this point.
That's what. So true. Bro, he has been lying. What do you mean, Tim? He has been lying.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what is the functional point of any of this? If right now he could just be like...
It's Israel.
Like...
I'm sorry to headphone users. I won't do that again. I'm sorry to headphone users.
We've negotiated terms, and so we're allowing the Strait to be opened, and then just let Iran do what the fuck and take the L, but claim it's a W. They do it all the time.
He has no leverage. He has
leverage
no...
For what?
Well, here's the thing with the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz might not be as...
Wait, hold on. Trump is keeping it closed.
No, he's not. The Iranians are.
Trump sent an armada there before the war started, and they've been turning boats away.
Okay.
All right. Myron's here, so we're going to let him do this. I will try not to interject. Must I admit it will be painful for me.
So
to not interject, but we'll let Myron cook.
Have been.
Here's the thing: boats are still getting through. Yes, they're turning boats.
I'll say that's disputed.
Vessels are still getting through. They're still collecting money. The reason why Trump wants the Strait, I know you're saying that he wants the Strait of Hormuz. I don't agree that he wants it closed. I think he wants it open.
That's why he took Venezuela, cleared the Caribbean, and began oil exports from the Gulf. Because he knew the Strait was going to be closed for an extended period, so he took the oil from Venezuela, and China just got cut off from half their oil imports.
No.
Oh. No. Where is he getting that from? What? No.
They don't get most of their oil from
it is half. It is.
They don't get most of their oil from Venezuela.
I didn't say most of it half.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's that high.
No.
And keep in mind also, even if it is.
From my knowledge, I believe, chat, you can fact check me. I'll do this without Googling it. Iran gets around half of their oil from, the Gulf, but the oil from the Gulf is negligible when you actually consider how much their country is powered off of coal, as well as what Iran is able to supplement and fill that gap for, as well as anything that's passed through the Strait conspicuously for China as well. Iran will make amends and they'll make arrangements, and so that China can get whatever they need, even if it needs to be done in secret.
China gets 40 to 50% of their oil from the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay, and
from oil through the Strait.
Okay, and Iran.
Yeah, but it doesn't affect them the same way it affects Europe and Asia and all these other countries. China has been largely chilling.
Still giving them oil, and then keep in mind that oil is
China only begged for the war to end when it escalated and Iran threatened to hit infrastructure in the Gulf that's critical for water, like desalination plants and a lot of other critical infrastructure. That's the only time China really interjected and made a very bold public statement that the war needs to end. During the summit that China had hosted Donald Trump for in May, they spoke about the war. They said they wanted it over, but China's not bending on their knees like dying from this war. So what you're saying does not line up with reality and what we've seen from Chinese statements. They're just not begging for this war to be over the same way Asia and Europe and these Gulf countries are begging for this war to be over. China's not actually on the back end of poor consequences from this conflict the same way other countries are. And everybody knows that.
Majority of their energy comes from coal, and they also have a very...
Mr. Clapcheese, thank you for the 5. And I'll just read this chat really quick. Seaside, for the neon cord hider kit from Amazon. All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Neon cord hider kit. You guys can see my cords? I know, we got to upgrade the studio. I'm moving in a couple weeks, so I'll have a new studio. You guys are going to like it.
Bus electric car program as well, so they're not as oil dependent. So even if they did get hypothetically 50% of their oil from Venezuela.
If you believe anything about what's going on in the world, this is the stated international assessment of what's going on.
You meant to say they got 50% from the Strait of Hormuz, not Venezuela. That was.
I didn't. I said that. I said the Strait of Hormuz.
But I don't know if you understood.
He did say Venezuela. Okay,
he meant
that's fine.
The Hormuz.
The bottom line is, let's deal like besides like the little details. The reality is that the Strait of Hormuz is closed because the Iranians have closed it. We don't have the leverage to open it up the way that we think, and it's very simple. It's not because
why not
Iran
Trump
has
just leave?
Why not what?
Why not just pull the forces out?
Why not pull? Because it would be extremely embarrassing. Because
that's not a functional reason.
He needs a political W before he leaves. The Iranians are going to continue to enrich. They're going to keep their ballistic missile program, and they're going to keep funding the proxies. And the war started because those three things were the main.
So why doesn't Trump blow them up?
The reason why he can't blow them up is because militarily, the next escalation is blowing up desalination plants and or power plants or energy grids. If he does that, Iran is going to retaliate and hit the Gulf states with the same exact thing.
No, he can take out their. We've annihilated most of their military capabilities.
No, we haven't. This is not true. And we'll go ahead and just debunk that with this on screen really quick. You guys want to go ahead and read that for me? U.S. intelligence shows Iran retains substantial missile capabilities. By the way, that's U.S. intelligence. It's not Iranian intelligence. U.S. intelligence. So exactly what are you saying, Tim?
No, we haven't. That's a lie.
Why? Okay,
not.
then he should do it, right?
No, if
why
he
not
did
do it?
Here's the thing.
Why isn't he doing it?
Why isn't he doing it?
Yeah.
Because the retaliation to the Gulf states would be.
He just told you that. Tim, what do you... Is Tim know what's going on? Is he on Earth? Hello? Is anyone home? Knock, knock. What do you... He just fucking answered your question.
Catastrophic. They would destroy desalination plants all across the Gulf. They would destroy, energy infrastructure, and that would create a global energy crisis,
Trump
even worse than we have,
their missile sites,
and a humanitarian crisis.
If Trump bombed Iran's missile sites,
he can't do that.
Why not?
Because there's hundreds of missile cities all across Iran. They're dispersed all over the place. And you have the IRGC with their 31 different provinces, and they operate completely autonomously. And he doesn't know where all of them are. So they will still be able to launch missiles no matter what. Remember in the war in the beginning, oh yeah, we destroyed all their launchers. They only have 100 left. That's a lie.
I think it's...
The Intel community came back and said that they have well over 50% of their capabilities still there with the ballistic missile program, and that's their most dangerous component.
So my argument is that they knew this. This has been known. There are people who have come on this show and explained the functions and capabilities of Iran.
Yep, we underestimated.
They moved in.
They did know, but they underestimated.
I disagree. Trump took Venezuela before going into Iran.
Yes.
We secured the largest oil-producing country in the world for ourselves before.
What does that have to do with Iran?
Closing 20% of the world's oil infrastructure is not an accident. Trump is now exporting more oil to the Gulf. It's not a coincidence.
Okay, and Tim, gas is still high. So exactly what has that done effectively for the American people? What did that make the CEO of Exxon rich? I'm sorry, what does that do for us? Chevron CEO meeting with Trump a couple weeks ago, something that I reported on. Oh, now that's a W. That's a W for who? That's a W for big corporations. It's a W for big tech. That's a W for the oil moguls. Just like cutting the corporate tax rate. Like, nothing for the people, everything for the big businesses. So much for a Republican conservative, anti-establishment much.
Okay.
You're acting like all of these moves made by the Trump administration that are in line with each other are accidents. And this...
It's not that they're accidents. It's that Trump miscalculated what would happen when he struck Iran. Trump thought it would be a few days, and then it was a few weeks. Now it's been a 100-day catastrophe that has spiraled into an issue that Trump cannot control. And what he's doing every single time they're in the Situation Room with Pete Hegseth and whoever else is involved is trying to figure out how they can pull out of this conflict quietly while still facing a W. Because this is what Tim is not understanding. Symbolically, this is what's important. The United States always had the ability, historically, to exercise brinksmanship, put our Navy on a country's coastline, and scare them into doing diplomacy with us without actually having to attack. Didn't work with Iran. Obviously, with our military presence being in Iran, or the Strait of Hormuz, the Persian Gulf, in around February and even January, we struck them as a result of that not working, and the protests that we try to get involved with and intertwined with not working, and where 40,000 people allegedly died. None of it worked. So then we struck Iran. That didn't work. So now the only option is to either nuke Iran, hit their desalination, or rather, their energy infrastructure, their energy grids, put the country in a blackout, hit their bridges, and that would eventually, after a long enough time period, make the military incapable of responding to our attacks. But in the meantime, and in that gap where the military is responding with their largely replenished missile stockpile that we just went over from U.S. intelligence reported by the New York Times and several other mainstream outlets, once we hit them with that, they will hit the Gulf allies in tandem. And as a retaliation against the Gulf allies, we will lose our ability to exercise these states as buffer states, that being Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Oman, so on and so forth. The United States needs to exercise its power with our military bases inside of these Middle Eastern countries. So long as Iran continues to destroy our bases along that entire coastline in the Gulf, we won't have any influence in the Middle East if that persists. Not only that, but people will largely die. U.S. personnel will largely die. Another L for Trump, symbolically. So he's saying, what's the functional reason? There's nothing left from functionality. The United States has no other option to exercise. We've lost escalation dominance. And so now all we have left is to make it seem like we're winning by going tit for tat, saying we hit an Iranian site, we hit a coastline city, we hit a radar site, destroyed their ability to see what's going on in the sky. But then at the same time, when we were going to restart the war about 2.5 weeks ago, if you remember, we spoke about this. What did Iran say? We know exactly what the United States is going to do in the air, and intelligence reports were showing that Trump was reluctant to actually strike Iran the same way he did the first time because Iran would have been ready for it. And that may be per the advancement of Russian intelligence or Chinese intelligence. So we're not just fighting one country, we're fighting one country that has an insane, ungodly amount of missiles and drones that are hard to intercept because Israel got hit hard in the beginning of the war and they got hit hard last summer, but we're also fighting Russian and Chinese intelligence. So exactly where's the functional equivalent, or exactly how are we going to ensure we can invoke some sort of W here? It's impossible. They've blocked 20% of the world's oil supply. Every single time Donald Trump goes on Truth Social or speaks to the media, what is the one underlying stipulation that guarantees he won't hit Iran again? Well, they got to open the Strait. They've got to open the Strait. Marco Rubio said just at Capitol Hill a few days ago that we reacted to, they've got to open the Strait. Pete Hegseth said they got to open the Strait. It's international waters. It's maritime illegal. All of these silly, arbitrary things that they're saying, not understanding that the Strait is blocked because we blocked their naval blockade. We blocked their naval ports. So Trump tried to block the blockade. This was about a month and a half ago. We reported on that. And as a result, Iran doubled down and said, you're going to block our ports? We're going to block the Strait of Hormuz even harder now. And actually, now we're going to toll ships even harder. And now we're going to hurl drones into the water. See how you like it. And so we're trying to control an uncontrollable situation. It's way easier for Iran to disrupt the Strait of Hormuz, that being local to them, than it is for the United States to go out of our own local waters, international waters, and secure and reopen and guarantee then safety for these oil vessels to pass through that, by the way, have no military capability at all. None of them are militarily functional. So exactly how are these oil vessels going to have the United States tell them it's safe when we tried that 2 weeks ago and we got driven out of the Strait as a result? And Saudi Arabia and Kuwait said you can't use our bases because if you use our bases in our airspace for Operation Freedom, which is guiding the vessels out of the Strait, we're going to bomb the shit out of these countries. Or these Gulf countries were worried Iran was going to bomb the shit out of them as a result. Because every single time a Gulf country steps up to say, we're going to support the United States, you can use this asset, you can use this base, you can use these jets, you can use that runway. Iran says, oh, really? Greenlit. And then they bomb them. So they've actually been reluctant to support the United States the way they were boldened to in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the war, because they know there's a back-end consequence of Iran hitting them. So it's like, I'm not an IRGC member, but bro, we've lost. In every situation possible, there's no way the United States can pull out of this war without looking like a loser unless we nuke Iran or we hit their infrastructure that's critical. And if we do that, what happens to the Gulf countries? And by the way, does Iran have a nuke now? Does Iran, we're not even talking about that. Who knows what they've been doing this whole time? We've given them so much time. The ceasefire started on April 7th. It is now June 6th, almost June 7th. So, what have they done these last 2 months? They built up their missiles, that's for sure. God knows what they've done with the uranium.
They're absolutely accidents. They're absolutely accidents.
So Trump slipped on a banana.
Ciroc No Diddy, thank you for the 20. He says, like the video ninjas, and if you're black like me, don't chimp out. Yeah, no chimping out. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate the support.
Field and did a perfect backflip and landed down the stairs.
What happened? The Venezuela operation gave him an enormous amount of hubris. Netanyahu sold him a dream that you can take Iran and you will be the first president to do it. You will build your legacy. He's really big on legacy building right now. He thought he'd be able to get it done in 96 hours. He didn't realize that Iran has a mosaic defense where if you kill the supreme leader and the top 50 guys,
why do you know that? The president and Pete Hegseth did not know that.
They know that. They just have no choice because Israel dragged them in without them actually having to make a sound decision with their own minds. Something Israel's done to the United States historically. Why didn't George Bush know that it was unnecessary to topple Saddam Hussein? Why didn't George Bush know they didn't have weapons of mass destruction? Iraq was completely in unison. They were completely agreeing upon the idea of weapons inspections by the UN. And the UN administered those inspections. And as a conclusion, they said, Iraq has no weapons of mass destruction, yet we still continued our war in Iraq, in our offensive. Like, that's a silly question. We can use that question over several different presidencies and see the issue. How did Trump not know that? How did Bush not know that? How did Obama not know that? They know that. They know that, okay?
Entire intelligence community warned him of this 7 days before he attacked.
Agreed. Do you think that his intelligence community, they also operate somewhat independently from the president's orders, took actions prior to this?
No, because they literally told him that this is a bad idea. Even if you kill the supreme leader, you are not going to be able to effectuate the regime change that you want. You're not going to be able to topple the government the way that you want. It's not going to work. We heavily suggest against it. And he still did it because he believed in the intelligence and he thought that he would be able to get it done in 96 hours. And the Venezuela operation had him extremely cocky. And
I think what you're doing is you're shoehorning into U.S. operations that happened before Israel's involvement.
The whole reason why we attacked is because Israel's going to attack. That we literally
correct, and we had the Armada there already.
I'm sorry,
right? The Armada was already there.
Yeah, he was doing it as a show of force. But what I'm trying to say is
Trump prepared for war.
Yep.
Was about to take a preemptive strike, so the U.S. got on board with their strike, but the U.S. was preparing for war with Iran. The U.S. has a chain of events from Panama to the Gulf to the Northwest Passage and Greenland that all line up with U.S. seizing global energy dominance that ends right now with the Strait being closed. You're saying all of those things are accidents and coincidences.
No, I'm not disputing the fact. No. I'm not disputing the fact that that was the goal.
In what way did he suggest that?
Well, what I'm telling you is that this war has been a quagmire in every single degree. It's been a waste. It's a bad decision. And he thought he'd be able to take Iran. I'm not disputing that why he did it.
But I'm telling you that I have a question.
Failure. Sure.
They took Venezuela.
Okay.
Secured Panama.
Okay. We've always been, they use US dollars in Panama. I mean, we've always.
Right. But the issue was that China was negotiating for control of the Panama Canal.
Okay.
So Trump secures Panama.
Sure.
He surrounds and cuts off Cuba. He takes the Venezuelan oil.
Yep.
He's negotiating Northwest Passage control.
Okay.
The Gulf states have begun massive exporting. All of this is aligned in the Western Hemisphere with the U.S.
This sounds like something he was trained to say. Do you know when? You got to be able to clock this. You remember when Charlie Kirk would get questions about Israel and a question would be posed something like, why does AIPAC fund politicians so much money, or Israeli involvement in 9/11, whatever. Somebody would ask a question, and Charlie Kirk, instead of answering a difficult question front-facingly, would bring it back through a series of different questions to funnel the person he's talking to into an aversion away from what they're actually trying to impose as an idea or a talking point. Like, this is what these MAGA people do. This is also what the pro-Israel people do. You tell an Israeli, why is there a genocide in Gaza? And then they say, does Israel have the right to exist? I'm sorry, where did that question come from? Why are you asking why are you answering my question with a question? And the reason why is because they want us to distract you and funnel you through this practiced, by the way, line of rhetoric and questioning. It's like a script until they get you to where they want you in the conversation and they reach the conclusion and where you forget why you asked that question in the first place. And so, like, Tim does this, these other guys do it, and it's like, you're not paying attention. You're talking about Greenland, you're talking about Panama, you're talking about Venezuela. What we're talking about is changing regimes in Iran is completely unnecessary for the American people. Changing regimes in Iran does not actually change the situation for China. Also, even if it were to, and you make that argument, you cannot regime change Iran. They have 250,000 people on the ground. They have what my brother already said is mosaic defense, which means even if you kill a high-ranking leader, there's one who's right next to him in succession, and then there's another one, and there's another one, and it goes on for days. You have that. You also have these different factions of the military all around different provinces in Iran being able to operate independently of said leadership, which is why we saw the prompted response of 7 or 8 different Gulf countries being hit with missiles right after the supreme leader was killed. By the way, we got a worse regime. We did get regime change. We got a more extreme leader in power. So it worked backwards. I mean, where's Tim drawing conclusions from Venezuela and like, what does this have to do with anything?
Trying to compete with OPEC. Then he sends an armada to the Strait of Hormuz. A war begins. He has now yo-yoed negotiations, keeping the Strait closed, which provides 20% of global energy, shifting production to the Gulf, which he secured in the first place. The idea that all of that was an accident, so you're is all just we whoopsied in Iran, makes no sense.
Let me make sure I understand your argument. Are you saying that Trump purposely wants to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed?
Yes.
No. Absolutely not. Absolutely.
Give me an argument.
Well, absolutely not.
Give me an argument.
If he, we're gonna say?
Oh, that.
No. Whoa.
Okay,
I asked for stop. I asked for an argument.
Yeah.
I asked for.
Relax. What is with him? Question. Relax.
Purposely closing the Strait of Hormuz.
Yep.
No, he's not.
Okay, now what's your argument?
Because so number one, our allies are panicking. Okay, obviously everyone in the Gulf, we've destroyed. Iran destroyed the LNG. Which 20%?
Allies?
I'm sorry?
Which allies are freaking out?
Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, UAE.
The entire GCC. What? I can't do this, bro.
Oman.
So let's
all of them
pause real quick and put it. So I hear what you're saying about the panic.
Yep.
And now I'll just go back to I have already addressed.
A month ago, it was confirmed that Kuwait could not export oil for 60 days. A country that largely depends on oil for economic growth and benefit can't control or really export their oil for 60 days. What is that country going to do besides panic?
Trump's intention was to choke out those energy producers and shift global energy to the Gulf, which he did before the war started. So closing the Strait does them over. That's what I'm arguing.
Yeah, it does. But here's the thing. It also, it hurts our allies. It hurts Japan. It hurts all of Asia. Okay. And on top of that, we can have all the oil we want. Trump can do, we want to seize control. Brent crude has been sitting at like the hundreds plus. Before the war, we were sitting at like.
And what did I say 5 minutes ago? Trump is shorting the oil as he yo-yos negotiations and the prices going up and down.
Okay.
Enriching him. And
so let's just create the biggest energy crisis ever.
Yeah.
And have Americans pay double for gas.
Yep.
Increase food prices. How's that America first?
Cutting. Who said anything about America first? What are you arguing?
He's the president of the United
What?
States.
Tim, are you on Earth? Is Tim on Earth? I'm about to chimp out, bro. Wallahi, I'm about to chimp out. Tim's not on Earth, bro. Tim's not on Earth. I'm actually getting frustrated here. Who said the argument is America first? I'm sorry. Like, what do you mean? This is so dishonest.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
I'm sorry. Did Myron have to come on the show and say, I care about America. This is my basis of argumentation. This is what I'm actually going to propose. This is my thesis. This is my introduction. This is my hook. This is my rebuttal. We're telling you why the war in Iran is a bad idea, short and long term. And you're saying that nobody's panicking, especially our allies who rely on oil as their main source of economic growth, their hottest commodity for economic growth and stability. They're not panicking that they can't export their oil through a 21-mile passageway where Iran is hurling drones at oil vessels that can't get through. They're not panicking. I'm sorry, Asia's not panicking. Europe's not panicking. NATO is not slightly panicking. And NATO is not going to disenfranchise from the United States, or rather, the United States is not going to disenfranchise from NATO, which I'm not entirely against. However, for these reasons is a bad one. So, like, what are you talking about? The United States has far more interest in not actually closing the Strait of Hormuz. We benefit so much more from dealing with these South American countries. You can make the argument that the regime change in Venezuela was beneficial. You can make that argument. That's valid. You can also talk about Cuba. That's valid because that's here at home. Like, none of this is going to slow China down at all. We'll cut 50% of their oil. We just told you why that's not going to work. We just told you why that's a bandage to something that's long term.
This war is a strategic failure. It doesn't benefit Americans whatsoever.
We never made an argument about America first. The argument is Trump has recentered global energy production to the U.S. Gulf, which he renamed. He's done everything seemingly in alignment with shipping oil from the Gulf to the rest of the world. And he f***ed OPEC and the allies in the region. And
just because the UAE left OPEC does not mean it's directly beneficial for the United States. There may be overlapping interests, sure, but don't misconstrue that for America first, because surely you'll see in the next 5 to 10 years that will go against us with the UAE and all these other countries that will leave eventually. So that's a common thing I hear.
China, 40 to 50% of their oil imports.
Okay.
So all of that.
So you think that was worth?
Because they can go independent real quick.
Or worth diplomacy, getting our bases
I did not argue
destroyed.
any of that. My argument is Trump took a series of actions before the war started. Currently, he is...
The series of actions that he took before the war started did not aid him in this war. That's why we're 100 days in and we've done nothing. Name one goal we've gotten out of this war. What goal have we achieved in the 100 days? In the $50 billion fucking dollars that we've had to actually spend, in the increased gas prices, and the increased prices for food, in all of the civilian casualties, what goal have we achieved? I'll tell you what goals Israel has achieved. I can name them off for days. I can't tell you what the United States has gotten out of it, though. I can tell you exactly what Israel got out of this. I can't tell you what the United States did, though. We've gotten nothing. We've gotten literally nothing. But I'd love to hear what we've gotten out of this. So,
not negotiating in any meaningful way to open the Strait. He's maintained an armada there to turn ships back. So when you look at all of the actions he took, facts, Venezuela, Cuba, Northwest Passage, Panama,
and I'm saying that's
oil
retarded.
exports.
And I'm saying that's
all
retarded.
That's fine.
That is
My
absolutely
argument is
retarded.
that it's not that he's smart.
Okay.
I called him a when he posted a picture of himself as Jesus.
Yeah.
I am saying all of these actions align specifically. And then when you look at the Strait and Trump's negotiations being not meaningful in any real way, the only logical conclusion is they want the Strait closed.
Well,
no. No. The only logical conclusion is we can't open the Strait. We can't open the Strait.
Or they were planning an invasion of Iran. No, it's that they were planning it and they wanted to win, but then when they realized they couldn't take it, they're like, well, least worst outcome now, we just sit here and blockade this because we can't get our objective.
So again,
no. The goal, oh my God. The goal of the blockade against the blockade was to hurt Iran economically by straining their ability to import and export goods, primarily oil and everything else they need to function as an economy and a government. That didn't work because they found ways to circumvent it, as well as the fact that they also do trade from the Caspian Sea north of Iran, which the United States does not have access to. And so the blockade upon the blockade is to choke Iran so they can let go of the Strait of Hormuz. That is actually a testament of truth to the fact that we want the Strait of Hormuz open because we're trying to choke their global economy. We're trying to choke their local economy. Had we not cared about the Strait of Hormuz, we would have never sent U.S. soldiers there right on Iranian coastline to potentially die. If we didn't care about it, why would we be there? We would just keep bombing them from the sky, and that would force them to close it even harder.
When we're talking about the probabilistic nature...
Why the fuck would we send J.D. Vance to Pakistan for? A symbolic 18-hour flight to Pakistan because we want the Strait closed? Come on, really? Really? Come on.
Of these actions.
Why is Trump yelling at Netanyahu on the phone allegedly? Because Netanyahu's bombing the shit out of Lebanon and Trump can't get the Strait open. And as a result, his approval rating's in the toilet. And he's going to lose in midterms. And then for 2027 and 2028, MAGA will have no power in legislation. It's going to be all Democrats in the House. And honestly, after hearing this, I can't wait for that. Honestly.
When we are talking about a series of manila folders in front of us, and we are trying to take a look at the history of events that the Trump administration and the Department of War have taken, there is a 56.7% probability that the intention is to keep the Strait closed. Everything else is minor probabilities that don't align with the actions we have seen. If you take a look at what Hegseth has advocated for, so it's like, why did they start blowing up cartel ships in the Caribbean? Weird, right? I mean, they made an argument about ending narco-terrorism. Oh, it could be that we are now exporting more oil through the Gulf than we ever have in the history of this country. And they needed to clear the lanes and get rid of narco-terrorist elements that would obstruct oil tankers. Why did they seize the Venezuelan tankers? Why did they chase after the Iranian tankers to sanction oil? Every single thing since the start of the Trump administration has been around boosting U.S. energy production and oil production and securing our ability to export it, even renaming the Gulf of America. Now, putting all of that in a list of things Trump has done.
Go ahead and draw the parallel. Go ahead and connect that.
As facts that he has done, regardless of his motivation. We have an armada sent to the Strait of Hormuz. A war breaks out, agreed, pressured the initial confrontation, but the armada was already there, and the refueling tankers and planes that were shipped before the war started into Europe, which had everybody saying, holy shit. Then Trump says, we're going to negotiate. And then he doesn't. And then a week later, we are close to a deal. And then there isn't one. And then a week later, we're close to a deal. And then there isn't one. And now for 2 months, Trump.
But do you really have this much faith in Trump that he is falsely telling the media he has control of the situation when he doesn't, is due to the fact that he intentionally wants to keep the Strait closed? Or is it that hard for you to conceive that he cannot control the situation? That's all he can do to remedy the global economy of oil.
Has yo-yoed back and forth claiming, trust me, I'm trying to get it done. When you line all those things up, you are looking at a picture that has been painted.
Okay.
To argue anything else is to ignore literally every action taken.
Fuck you at Netanyahu if he was getting his wish. He's obviously in a situation he doesn't want to be in.
That's because of the bombing of Lebanon.
Yeah, because he can't get the peace deal because he wants to reopen global trade.
And you
literally, thank you. Like, even this guy, I don't know who this is, but this guy is like, Tim, you're on one right now.
Argued that was bull.
No, I am saying that this war is it's not a good idea. I see what you're saying. You're saying, well, hey, he's doing all this stuff, etc. None of that is America first. None of it is strategic.
Never argued it was America first. Never argued it was a good idea.
And hold on, none of it is beneficial or strategic or anything like that. And also, there's no, he's not purposely keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed. He needs a political win. He needs a political win before he leaves, whether it's zero enrichment, them opening up the Strait, etc. He absolutely has a vested interest in it because our allies are literally losing their minds, and he has the global market in the worst energy crisis ever. So, like, he does want the Strait of Hormuz closed, but he's not willing to do what's required to actually open up the Strait right now, and he's suffering for it. And he thought that he.
I agree with that. Now, why isn't he?
What was that?
I agree. He's not willing to do what needs to be done to open the Strait of Hormuz. The question is why.
He doesn't want. He wants to save face. 100%.
But
wants to save face.
So here's the problem I have with that. I have given you a series of mathematical, economic, and geopolitical reasons.
No, you haven't, because none of them have to do with the Strait of Hormuz.
Sure.
Why not just Trump, but the
Bro's talking about Venezuela and hitting vessels that are coming from South America that have narcotics on them. What does that have to do with the Strait of Hormuz?
United States government and Department of War would take an action, and your argument in turn, which is acceptable if that's your argument. I disagree with you. Your argument is Trump's got an emotional issue.
Well, yeah, he can be. It's not just an emotional issue; it's a political thing too. If he walks away from this, because here's the thing.
Well, what does he need to win for? The midterms are
wow. Like, can Myron get a word in, bro?
Procedural at this point, and he can't run for re-election again.
He has an ego. I think we can all agree that he has an ego. And then also on top of that, it's about power, projection of power, right? Our entire military infrastructure is based on projecting power. If we leave now with our bases destroyed in the region, them controlling the Strait of Hormuz, them being able to get money from the vessels that go through, it's an enormous declaration of a victory. Also, this is their warfare. This is their game. They're running an asymmetric warfare.
No, Myron, don't worry. Iran is just tolling every ship millions of dollars, and Trump wants that to happen. So he's going to keep the Strait closed and under Iranian control.
So if Trump leaves right now, it's going to be a huge political loss, and it's going to destroy his legacy and make him look horrible. So so he can't.
Conversely,
he can't leave.
There is
but he wants to leave.
An image issue. You would argue a projection issue.
There's a projection issue.
I would argue that there is a functional advantage. And the functional argument, I think, takes probability over perceived PR issues. The functional issue is that China was on track to overtake the United States 10 years ago. It was projected at 2027. Now it's projected to be somewhere around 2038. And every week, every month, this continues, and China's been cut off from their oil imports. They push back the time frame by which China would overtake the U.S. In fact, Xi Jinping,
China's still getting their
press
oil.
Conference where he said,
still getting it from Iran. They're still getting it from Russia. They're not as oil dependent.
Yeah, China,
They're not getting it from this. They're not. They've lost 40 to 50% of their imports,
and they can replace that from Iran and anywhere else. And even then, if we grant you that argument, you are omitting the fact that Israel is about to have an ungodly amount of control in the Middle East, one that we won't be able to control. And this is a country that has stabbed us in the back several times. What happens when there's no checks and balances system for them in the Middle East? Remember, Israel still has to deal with Hezbollah, that is funded by Iran, and Hamas, that is funded by Iran, and the Houthis, that are funded by Iran, and the Popular Mobilization Forces, that are funded by Iran, in eastern Iraq, I believe. And so, if those proxies all die, and the IRGC dies, and Iran dies, and there's an Israeli-favored, U.S.-favored, backed president or leader, religious leader, whatever it is, in Iran, a Reza Pahlavi, a Shah remnant, whatever it is, immediately the Middle East will change overnight. That's the biggest problem. And that will be a Middle East that the United States cannot flex its muscles in. And so you're talking about oil, and you're talking about Gulf oil, and you're talking about China. What happens when Iran has no control? Israel has all the control. What happens with China then? What happens with China then? What happens with all the Gulf countries in China? Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait, Bahrain, where are they going to go? They're not going to go to the United States when Israel runs the Middle East. They're going to go to China. They're going to go to Russia. Definitely China more so than Russia. And so, like, yeah, I get what he's trying to say, but you're missing the bigger picture. The Middle East is a pivotal region, one that the United States must have buffer states in order to remain number one. And so, yeah, there's a PR aspect. Donald Trump is an ego narcissistic maniac who refuses to lose. If he pulls out of the war now, he definitely lost in every segment, militarily, strategically, everything you can think of. But the biggest problem is Israel wants this war to persist. Why? Not for American benefit, not because China's going to get weak. Where are you getting that from? They want this war to persist so they can annex everywhere in the Middle East, and the United States no longer has to be this country that Israel depends on. And so there's no more dependency. There's no more unrest from the populist base in the United States. There's no more people saying free the United States from Israel. No more Israeli influence. None of that. That's all eradicated. Israel can operate freely of that. What kind of world are we looking at after that happens? And Israel, by the way, has nukes. We started this war on the false pretext that Iran has a nuke that we want to get rid of. They don't got a nuke. Tulsi Gabbard said that, and guess who stepped down from their position of director of national intelligence? Tulsi Gabbard, because she opposed Trump on what was right. And so Trump is getting rid of all of the people who are not loyalists, all of the people who tell him this war is a bad idea. There is no long-term benefit for the United States. This does not actually hurt China the way a lot of these magatards claim it does. So really, who's the biggest beneficiary? It is and will always be Israel. Always. So, you know, it's like, bro.
This is a fact. This is, if we believe anything about the war, then this is part of the global assessment as to what is going on.
Someone said Ryad is a Myron proxy.
Resulting in
I agree with you.
Or that's
that
funny.
the goal was to try to weaken China.
Threatened the United States with World War III when she said, I hope the U.S. can avoid Thucydides' trap, which was...
Yeah, we spoke about this. Yes, Xi Jinping eventually sees the day where the United States and China will be even in power, and they're going to have to fight an inevitable war in which China wins, because that's the way the world works. That's the way we see history, everything like that. Look, bro, blocking the Strait of Hormuz is not about to block China from actually being powerful enough to challenge the United States in the next 5 decades. Making Israel really powerful will actually speed that process up.
The statement to Trump, to which Trump responded, he certainly must not have meant what he meant, because the statement was, we will overtake the United States, and if the only thing you can do to stop us is declare war. That's what Xi Jinping told Donald Trump when he publicly stated that.
When was this?
This was, last month?
During the summit.
He said, I hope...
During the summit meeting?
It might have been. He said,
yes.
I hope the United States can avoid Thucydides' trap. Thucydides' trap is that when a rising economic power displaces the dominant one, war breaks out. Mm-hmm. He was saying to the United States, your choice now is surrender.
Oh, or he could have been like, I hope that we can overcome
that's why
a conflict.
Saying
more about we should be working together.
Knowing what Thucydides' trap is and then telling the dominant power, we are going to supplant you. He is saying, back the fuck off. He's saying, bend the knee, we take over the global economy, and you...
And also, aren't all the China hawks against this war in Iran anyways? So, like, all the people who have expertise in this matter don't even say this. Like, why are we not directing our military capabilities at the first island chain? Why are we not actually worrying about our Patriot missile interceptor system being really low, halfway? Munitions are not replenished currently. China sees that. What are they going to do with Taiwan? Like, China's looking at other things, too. They're not just worried about Gulf oil. Their influence is about to expand, too.
What he said.
And we don't have the bandwidth to actually combat that right now as we sit.
Okay, look.
Listen. Let me phrase again. He said very gentlemanly, he said, Mr. President Trump, the rise of China is inevitable. Your choice is to decide not to go to war with us when we win.
Why is he so cortisol, Max? What's his problem, bro?
That's what he said. How should the United States accept that statement? You're right, China. You will displace us economically, and we will refuse to fight about it.
What Tim's saying does line up with what the Chinese diplomats are saying to Blinken when they met in Alaska. He said, "You are not in a position. You're not in a position of power." China really did think that the United States was a paper tiger that the U.S. didn't have.
Well, we've kind of been exposed as somewhat of a paper tiger. We literally.
I mean, who cares what China's saying, though? China could say whatever they want. Xi Jinping could say, fuck Trump, fuck America tomorrow. That makes no difference. It doesn't mean bomb Iran and make Israel strong as hell. Like, where are we drawing these lines from? Like, that doesn't matter. Who cares what China is saying? Let's worry about what China is doing. Let's worry about the United States is doing.
Can't defend
and what we are doing is not conducive to a long-term power structure in the Middle East, which is imperative. It is actually incredibly important if we want to have some sort of power structure in the middle, or we want to be able to impose or go against China later on in the future. If Israel, again, like I said, maintains that power and they have complete hegemony in the Middle East, the United States can kiss its influence completely goodbye.
Allies, our bases are destroyed. Like this war, like I see what you're saying. You're saying, hey, there's some functionality here from this conflict where we are starting to get some level of energy dominance. Fine.
You can fought over our European and allies a long time ago.
You can make that argument, but my argument to that is that functionality does not justify the political, diplomatic, and economical quagmire that we've created, and it's a foolish war that doesn't benefit us in the long term. Americans are paying double for gas. Americans are struggling to pay for food.
And Trump
this is not America first at all.
Trump does not care.
This is war.
Right now.
This is a Jewish war. It's bad.
That's where you've lost it.
It is a Jewish war.
It's not.
No one benefits from this conflict except for.
But everybody,
we do not benefit from this conflict whatsoever.
But stopping China from rising internationally benefits the United States.
And also,
if he had accomplished the plan fully and taken Iran like he had planned in 96 hours, and he had been able to,
no, that's not the argument. And then come back and have Cuba, longer China's cut off from their energy, the more they get depressed and the more we grow. We are selling oil. We have become the dominant global power.
So what you're advocating for is to fight Iran for 10 years. You do realize. If you're asking for China to be cut off from its oil supply for an extended period of time and not be able to grow at the rate that they've been growing at so they can pass the United States in the next 5 or 10 years, then you're also asking for this war to last forever, which is going to be economically disastrous for the United States as well. And so it's like, at what point do we actually reach the threshold where this is not beneficial, even though there might be a small benefit here or there? It doesn't actually cover or shadow over the larger issue of it being economically disastrous for the United States. And so if we get involved in this war for 10 plus years, which is honestly where the wind is blowing because it's been 100 days and we're not showing any sort of sign of positive diplomacy whatsoever, I mean, you have to imagine this is going to be a forever war just like it was in Iraq. And so what Tim is asking for, it necessitates a forever aspect of this war. If you're saying China needs to be cut off from oil for such a long period of time, that necessitates a forever war. And so that will actually not benefit the United States as well. So what my brother said is right. If this was 96 hours, then in that case, actually, yeah, it would have been beneficial, maybe.
Qatar, which country?
And even then, it's just not, it doesn't, even if it's 10 days, if it's 10 seconds, has nothing to do with China.
Just dipped up from OPEC. They quit OPEC. Trump has UAE OPEC and cut China off, and China is distressed while the U.S. has become the largest energy exporter. It's bad. Trump's not going to come out and say, the United States worker over. He's not going to come out and say, I intentionally spiked gas prices to China, because the average person doesn't understand that. And I'm not saying it's a proven fact that it will be good.
I mean, the average person does understand that. How hard is that to explain? You just said it clearly. He's making it 5D chess when it's really like 1D Trump is a retard chess.
I'm saying we
cannot do this.
See what has been done, and it lines up.
If China was as dependent on oil as we were, I would say that's a great strategy, but they are not. They use a lot of coal. They use a lot of solar power. They invest heavily in renewable energy. Like, they are not as oil dependent as we are, and they're still getting oil.
We got one more caller. Good convo, by the way.
Yeah,
we do have one more caller. Shay, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, if people want base political takes, they can follow me on X.
She was on the line.
Gregory.
We got one more caller.
Sorry.
What was?
No, my bad, bro. I didn't realize that you were on the call the whole time. I heard you laughing a little bit.
No. By the way, great debate, guys.
Yeah, nice.
Really nice to hear conversation about this. Follow me on X. Gregory C is in Cat Landers. On Twitter.
Landers.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for calling in, brother.
Dude.
And last but not least, to the very last minute, Slick. What's up?
What's up, Slick?
Hey.
Hi.
What's up, you guys? I'll try to keep it as fast as possible. My question is from Myron Gaines. Tim has argued that people have IDS. I've heard you argue that of people have strong in-group preference, believe they're superior to others, desire supremacy on the world stage, and will lie and commit violence to achieve their goals. Those same critiques can be leveled against Islam. What is your response to that?
Well, here's the thing. When I'm talking about
Islamic violence stems from Israeli aggression in the Middle East.
You can make
quick answer. Like, that's just the facts. That's what all the experts say. That's what all literature says. That's what Robert Pape says. Look at the data, look at the statistics, don't argue maybe. When you interfere with people's right to self-determination with their sovereignty, they will resist and create terrorist factions. We backed bin Laden in the late 80s. And as a result, he created this terror network that we had to combat for the last 20 years, which is why 9/11 ever happened. So you got to straddle the line carefully. When Hassan Piker says the U.S. deserved 9/11, fuck Hassan Piker. He's a psycho. That's a crazy, deranged thing to say. But you can also entertain and understand the reality that the United States created a reality in where 9/11 was possible because of our poor foreign policy. That's true. But that doesn't mean that innocent people deserve to die on 9/11. And so when you talk about Islamic terrorism and Israeli aggression and, well, there's two parallels, right? Islamists want to do the same thing. It's like, no, Muslims immigrate to UK and London and Europe in record numbers because their countries have been destroyed and destabilized because of Israeli aggression and U.S. intervention via Israeli aggression that actually introduces a threat to Israeli sovereignty, which they brought upon themselves by encroaching upon borders of sovereign nations like Iraq, Lebanon, so on and so forth. So the problem of Islamic terrorism and extremism really took face in the 50s and the 60s and so on in the 70s and the 80s and now where we've gotten to today because of Israeli aggression in the Middle East. That is not like a hot take. That is factually true. I can prove that with evidence chronologically. So you can make the argument that Islam has some sort of ideological basis and try to use the Quran, but it falls flat on its face when you really look at what Muslims believe in. It's not this idea of global control and terrorism and this second caliphate. Most Muslims in the United States are like liberal. Like they don't believe in expansion. They don't believe in any of these things. So it's just not like, it's not true at all. Muslims have little representation at all in Congress and none in the Senate, none in U.S. policy domestically at all. 1.3% of the country. The whole like Islamic terrorism. I'm going to let Myron answer. I like, you know, I know he'll cook, but I'm getting too charged up.
Those are fair arguments, right? But I'm not an Islam apologist. When I talk about power, etc., I'm referring to the fact that we have the state of Israel, who runs our foreign policy, runs our censorship program here in the United States, and they have an enormous amount of representation despite being a small minority of the population. So look, I'm not going to sit here and be an apologist for Islam. Both religions have their issues, but let's be honest here. Zionism is rooted in Judaism, which inherently purports.
Okay. I don't want the channel nuked.
There is never, at any point, ever in history, where Israel has done something wrong.
What was a recent thing that
Wait, what? Did I miss context there? Hang on.
Savior and become a Christian. Judaism does not practice that.
Myron.
And it's an ethno-religion.
There is never, at any point, ever in history, where Israel has done something wrong.
What was a recent thing that Israel and America were going to blend their two militaries?
And also, hold on, no, and let me ask a caller, because you're asking me a question about a religion versus like a state. Are you talking about Judaism as the religion, or are we talking about? I just want to make sure I understand your question.
No, I specifically said as a people. I was watching a video of you earlier today where you were talking about it's not the Zionists, it's not the globalists, it's not the elites, it's the Jews.
Yeah, it is the.
You listed off these.
Good. Keep
so all anyone who's a Jew.
No, of course not. But what I am saying is that it's not all. It's always typically, for the most part. And you know, the thing is that everyone is too scared and too to call it what it is. Oh, Zionism. Oh, it's the globalists, it's the elitists. 9 out of 10 times, it's. That's what it is.
And by the way, okay, look, the pioneer, if you will, one of the pioneers. There are several others of Islamic terrorism. One may argue is Osama bin Laden, a deranged, crazy, evil villain who deserved to die. I have to say that because somebody's going to say I'm being sympathetic towards him, but we must understand why the enemies of the United States have their motivations, and so that we can actually avoid doing these mistakes or causing these mistakes again, which result in repercussions back on the American people. And this always results in The main reason from the beginning being our support for Israel. In his letter to America, this is what Osama bin Laden had to say. And you have to read the last paragraph, and it makes so much more sense as to what I was saying earlier. He says, Palestine has been under occupation for decades, and none of your presidents talked about it until after September 11th, when Bush realized that your oppression and the tyranny against us were a part of the reason for the attack. Then he talked about the necessity for 2 states. Obama is trying to address the issue with the same solutions suggested by his predecessor. They are quilting fruitless solutions, not of concern to us. If you want a real settlement that guarantees the security in your country and safeguards your economy from being depleted in a manner similar to our war of attrition against the Soviet Union, then you have to implement a roadmap that returns the Palestinian land to us, all of it, from the sea to the river. It is an Islamic land, not subject to being traded or granted to any party. In conclusion, be assured that we do not fight for mere killing, but to stop killing of our people. It is a sin to kill a person without proper justifiable cause, yada, yada, yada. At the end of the day, he's done that several times, so I don't know what he's talking about. Osama bin Laden is a terrorist, and he's a madman and deranged who killed several people and likely burning in hell right now as we speak. Muslims aren't supposed to say whether somebody goes to hell or not, but I'm pretty confident on that one. However, with all that being said, you must understand what he was saying there. The issue of tension in the Middle East stems from the question of Palestine. So to have these conversations without that is like 2 pieces of bread without meat in the middle. You cannot do it. It just doesn't make sense. It does not work. It's not meant to work that way. The question of Palestine is what started everything. The creation of the Israeli state in 48, the Nakba, the annexation, all of these things culminated into what we saw in the 90s with this uprising of Al-Qaeda and all these extremist factions and all these terrorist groups that we know today like ISIS and several others. These all stem from the Osama ideology. And the lie that Western media tells people is, no. The reason that the Muslims hate the United States is because of their freedom and their sovereignty and Christianity. And it's like, and the naked women. It's like, actually, no. Arab-U.S. relations were actually very good prior to the issue of Israel in the 48 and 67 and all these different pivotal years for Palestine and Israel as it sits today, Gaza being 67, so on and so forth. And so you really think about these things, you only start to see this spark or this uptick in Islamic extremism after these things in the Middle East take place. And when you look at the reason as to why these issues have formed, it stems from the same origin. It's never religious. It's never because of American sovereignty. It's never because of freedom. It's never because of Western values. And if you don't understand that, you'll never understand anything that's happening in that part of the world, because you'll always be blindsided by these ideological captured people who say, no, Islam is a problem. I'm going to tell you why. This verse, this hadith, and it's like, you could disagree with the verses in the hadith. That has nothing to do with what has taken place in the Middle East right now. You got to understand that. You don't have to be an Islamic apologist. And I say this all the time, but you have to understand that set of facts to really have a clear scope as to what's happening in the Middle East and why it has been happening. So it's like, what?
People don't like hearing that. It comes.
And there's no like global effort to take over the world for Muslims. Like, that's something that ISIS said was a mission of theirs. ISIS is largely fractured now. And ISIS is also a creation of Obama and Clinton.
Office up, but we must understand that supremacy does play a significant role. The tribalism plays a significant role. All
right, Myron's going to get the channel smoked. We'll go back to Tim.
It depends on how you feel, but I think it's important to realize that Islam does not practice the same level of supremacy that Judaism does.
I would completely disagree with it.
Because it's inclusive, unlike Judaism is exclusive.
Right. But I would just argue they're different things, right? Like, Muslims will just slit your throat if you're in their country and you don't, if you're an apostate, they'll kill you. So they want everyone to convert, whereas you don't.
No. That you just contradicted yourself. An apostate is somebody who was originally Muslim. That doesn't mean somebody has to convert. That means somebody who left the religion. If you're a non-Muslim in a Muslim country, they don't kill you and slit your throat. What do you mean? If you don't adhere to their law, they'll put you in jail. But there's no valid basis to kill you. The only way Muslims can actually administer execution is by corruption in the land. Fasad fil ard is what you would call it in Arabic. And that's murder, that is rape, that is stealing, things like that. Like very punishable, detestable crimes. Not like, I don't want to be Muslim, we have to slit your throat. Like, this is just bullshit propaganda. That's not true. It's literally not true. Like,
revert.
Yo, these people turn me into an Islamic apologist, and like, I swear to God, that's not what I want to do. But it's like the misinformation is just unbelievable.
I think it's a term.
Yeah, right.
I mean, hey, again,
what is this? Sorry, Myron, this plan, it's okay. There's a military plan in Congress looking to be advanced called from Section 224 of the proposed National Defense.
Oh, yeah, please, let's do it. Let's talk about this.
Defense Authorization Act called the...
Yo, and we got about 1,000 of you guys, just a little bit over 1,000 of you guys in here. If you're enjoying the stream, please like the video. I appreciate all the support you guys have been giving me over these last few months. God bless all of you. Shout out to you guys in the chat. Appreciate it. Like the video. Helps me out a lot. I need billions and billions of likes. Thank you, guys.
United States Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative, where they say they're planning to deeply integrate the U.S. and militaries.
Yeah, it was a couple days ago. Yeah.
Well, I think the most important thing we can do as Americans is send our children to die for Islam. And so...
Yeah, but like,
no dual citizenship should be allowed in government. No American citizen should be allowed to serve in a foreign military, even if they're dual citizens. None of that should be allowed, and that bill should be thrown in the trash.
But no, caller, to fully answer your question, bro, like, you know, I think there is a serious problem. You might go ahead and call it derangement syndrome or whatever, but or whatever.
No, I don't think he's calling that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I do think that there's a fifth column that we just simply don't want to acknowledge until as of recently, and it took a genocide in Gaza for us to wake up to it. But yeah, dude, they have an enormous. I mean, they just got Thomas Massie out of his own district, and like they spent $30 million on that.
Trump,
dude, there's less than 1% population in that district.
Cornyn was the AIPAC candidate. They beat him.
Who was that?
Cornyn was the AIPAC candidate.
Was this out of the one that you were talking about, the election out of that you were just talking about?
This was Texas. The Texas Senate race, the AIPAC candidate lost. Trump backed Paxton against the AIPAC candidate.
Okay, but Paxton is also pro. So it's like, what my argument is, like, when they're not pro, right, like Cori Bush or Thomas Massie or the other guy, I forget his name. I mean, we're talking about
Bush was an.
I mean,
that's not my point.
She was she hit it.
My point is that they spent what, I think $12 or $13 million to make sure that she lost. They spent $30 million on Massie. They spent the other politician, I forget his name, but they spent like $20 million on
Bowman.
Bowman, thank you, Bowman. They spent $20 million on Bowman. So like, look, we can have
Massie's not the first.
And here's the thing, just so the people, I'm not even religious. Like when I make these arguments that I make, I typically try to stay away from theology, but I do think
you guys understand. On my brother, he's very. I told you guys just saw a manifestation of my dark side. That sounded so corny, but really, my brother is very gracious. Like, he's very patient. He doesn't argue back, or he argues back. He doesn't fight back. He doesn't match tonality. He stays in his own element, to his benefit, by the way. To my downfall, sometimes I get annoyed. And so if I was there answering these questions, I might have not like chimped out, like, yo, what the fuck? I wouldn't have done that. But like, I would have gotten aggressive and annoyed, you know? So, you know, you people think like, oh, Myron's just unhinged. It's like, no. Like, he's actually pretty patient. He's a pretty patient guy, actually.
It's important to understand that when it comes to, you know, supremacy in Judaism in general, it's a religion of supremacy. And that is baked into.
Okay. Lord, we'll just skip past this topic.
Ever. They don't benefit us. They only hurt us. And, you know, I'd see your argument where you're making the argument like, hey, look, I think he's keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed because there's functional benefits to it for, you know, dominating energy.
The East.
Dominating energy. My argument to that is, right, I understand your perspective. My argument to that is that functionality is not worth all the other negative ramifications that have come from this conflict.
Some foreign wars are good for your country if you, like, say you arm one side.
Yeah, but largely in the Middle East, I mean, if we look at history, there is no foreign war that actually benefited us. Not in the Middle East. They all benefit Israel. So this war is the same remnant of what we've seen several times over from the 90s up until now. Doesn't take an expert to discern from the fact that this is not going to help the United States before we do it.
Just enough to start the war, and then they go into war and both sides kill each other to death. Then you go in and conquer both of them.
When I say foreign wars, I mean more along the lines of, like, you know, us fighting the war, but you're saying like proxy warfare. Even that, man, like we're getting into an age where, like, we live in a multipolar world now. Like the unipolar world that we had in the 1990s.
Exactly. It's like there's several other very powerful countries now. There's just nothing we can do about it. Everything else is cope.
90s, you know, where we were coming in and we got Saddam the out of Kuwait and everything else like that.
Having control over our Western hemisphere is the biggest thing we can do.
Like, I think diplomacy is the new route. I don't think foreign wars is the way to go. I like what China's doing. China is building infrastructure. They're being pragmatic partners. They're winning influence by investing versus dropping bombs on people. And I think
they're going to war. They're just doing
foreign policy. I think our style of foreign policy is dated.
China is using psyops and manipulation.
Sure, but I think that's better.
Soft power.
I think that's better than dropping bombs. You know what I mean?
Soft power is.
And let me be clear about this. All the guys that complain, that say like, "Oh, Myron, you criticize it." You want to know why? Because I am very like I don't like China either. Like I watch China. I see that they're rising. I don't want them to rise. And I look at the wars in the Middle East. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like we should be focusing on.
Yeah, but like there's no. I completely agree. The problem, and this is to Myron's point. It's like, yeah, China's this problem. China's this threat. Whatever, but like, bro, most of their GDP comes from their services. I think it's like nearly 60%. So like, China's just got too many bodies. They've got manpower. Like that's really what's going to catapult them forward. It's not oil from the Gulf. It's just like no one ever said that.
China, we should be focusing on Russia. We need to make sure that we are, we want to be as close as possible to like the main power. And, we bog ourselves down in these conflicts, and I'm like, what are we doing? And it's because of the China. That's why I have such an issue with it, is because it keeps our eyes off of what really needs to be focused on.
That's why all the China hawks hate this war.
That's why.
Literally because of what he just said.
I'm with you with diplomacy. But it's just about data, or it's about like resource aggregation. If we can get resources to where they need to go fast, we can have diplomacy.
Yeah, and I think like I think that we can. So all the problems in the Middle East come down really to one issue, the Palestine question, which Israel's been trying to avoid a million times.
Yes.
Times with the Abraham Accords, getting around things. And if we can figure out this Palestine question, everything else is going to fall in line. There's no need for proxies anymore. There's no need for Iran having a nuclear weapons program. There's no need for all these conflicts. Like we can probably iron something out, bring them back into the global market, and everyone makes money. So I'm for diplomacy first. And I think war is like, at this point, it's a dated, it's a non-strategic W, because the reality is you cannot escalate to a certain point. Like right now, like you said, why don't we just bomb them? Well, the reason why is because if we destroy power plants to go to the next step, they're going to destroy our allies in the Gulf, and we're going to have
I don't think Trump cares about them.
He does, dude. He does. They remember his Kushner, Witkoff, all these guys have significant business interests in the Gulf. His whole family has.
Yeah, that's not true. And they give Trump tons of money. They gave him a plane.
Of interest in the Gulf.
Fair point. We are over though. So Slick, do you want to add anything or shout anything out?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that you said there as far as the exclusivity argument or whatever. But like, you said you're not a religious person. Are you? You're not Muslim anymore, or you are?
No, I am Muslim, right? I'm not going to denounce the religion, but that does not like really shape my political worldview. Like I am very critical of Islam. Like when they pray in Times Square, I'm like, that's fine. Like I'm not a Muslim apologist by any means. When I give my takes, 9 out of 10 times is based on, just pure, political, geopolitical situations. I don't really bring theology too much into it, but I do think, in certain situations, it is important to bring it in for context. So like when I talk about Zionism, if we're going to be real, Zionism is.
Okay. I hope you guys understand why I have to do that. Sorry.
Like, for example, some of the most prominent people that have exposed the crimes of Israel have been Jewish.
Okay. Okay. We're just done with the video. All right. You guys can probably, you got half a brain. You know why I got to do that. But yeah, man, Tim. I like Tim Pool. I think he's smart, but like he's lying to himself. I think he knows that. All right, let's see. PFF says, counter remark to Tim's China-Trump argument. Why not just start off with a blockade? Why did Operation Midnight Hammer occur? Why did the attempted Mossad-backed coup? Why the discussion on enrichment? China isn't relevant here. That's what I'm saying. Like, bro, very good point. Why wouldn't we just block the Strait of Hormuz from the get-go? Why spend billions of dollars on deploying very expensive military aircraft to bomb their nuclear facilities like Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan last year? Why try to interrupt their protest? Why try and impose sanctions? Why try and do all these things? Because we want regime change in Iran. And he's saying ultimately that could lead to a weaker China. Where is the connection? You cannot draw that out even if you tried all day. That's that's just, it's absurd. That was the largest dose of copium I've heard in a long time. Long time. That's a record level copium right there. It's like, yeah, bomb the shit out of Iran, kill thousands of people to block the Strait and weaken China. Okay. Angel Alvarado says, with this war in Iran, I'm knowing now who I should listen to and who not. And the propaganda are crazy right now. It is crazy right now. Thank you so much, Angel. Someone said Tim is basically Destiny in the opposite direction. Yeah, low key. He's argumentative. Look, he likes the argumentation. He likes the debate. I don't got a problem with Tim, but I did get a little upset the way he was talking to Myron. I can't help it. He's being a little aggressive. I didn't like that. We're talking about politics. Let's all have decorum here. Respect goes both ways, right? So I felt he got a little bit too aggressive, but I'm just chimping out. What do I know? I'm just chimping out. I'm being. Let me chill because I'm on YouTube. Anyways, what was left? We can react a little bit to Mehdi Hassan and PBD. That's all the hype right now. So let's see if we can pull that up. Or do we have time? Should I save that for tomorrow? Because we've already been on for 2.5, right? Yeah, it's been 3 hours. Thodic, thank you so much for the 20. Big supporter of the show. W Thodic in the chat. One of our big supporters. Thank you so much, bro. Appreciate you. But yeah, if you guys didn't see, a lot of you guys just came in. This is my tweet earlier. I said, Myron, man. He defended this girl who got attacked on Fresh and Fit. Based. Super gentleman Chad. Like, Chad saves Foyd from Chimp Out. Let's see. This is the video here if you guys didn't see it.
You good?
We're going to have to respectfully ask you to
You're going
leave.
to exit
You got to exit to the left.
Thank you for coming. You were great guest.
Yes, thanks for coming on the show.
He's tweaking. Look at Myron. Look at Myron. What a gentleman. What a gentleman. I wish I had like a soundboard that was like vaguely sexual. All right. I'll stop being silly. No, that's what we were reacting to earlier. For a lot of you guys that missed it, because a lot of you guys come in at like 11. Like my viewership spikes at like 11. I've noticed. You guys are late sleepers, man. Dominicano, thank you so much for the 20, my friend. Appreciate it. God bless. Okay, a lot of you guys are laughing. All right, you weren't in here earlier. So yeah, my brother, my brother bugged out, or sorry, not my brother. This girl bugged out on show and attacked this like I think Ukrainian girl. I don't know. They must have been beefing. I don't know the context. And then I call him Myron Man here. Somebody made this image with AI, presumably. I said, Myron, man, this tweet's going crazy. Go spam this tweet up. Get it to 1,000 likes. And then this stupid Foyd. You know what? We'll react to this just for the sake of... Did this clip even do well? This clip didn't even do well, so I'm not even going to give her attention. But you can go on my X and check that out. By the way, follow me on X if you haven't already. That's Ryad's Report. Okay? We do good tweets on there all the time. I'm not tweeting all the time, but, I'm reacting to things. I guess this wasn't real. I didn't follow the story. Lena the Plug files for divorce from Adam. If that's true, I mean, who didn't see that coming? I said this as well. Democrats jumping at Trump allegedly falling asleep during the White House meetings is the funniest shit. Like Biden wasn't effectively being hauled around in a casket for 4 years. Not to glaze Trump, and you guys know I attack Trump all the time, but it's like there's so many other talking points with Iran. So you could see, I cook here. I announce when I'm live. I always forget to do it. I got to get in the habit of doing that. Talking about Retta and fitness, I was in LA. I spoke about how I love Los Angeles. So, follow me on X. We be cooking on X. But yeah, that's really everything that's been going on so far in the news. I'm not sure if I missed anything. I don't think so. We even spoke about Albania briefly. So, yeah. If anything else comes up, of course, we'll cover it promptly when it does arise. You know what? We got a lot of you guys in here. Let's do PBD Mehdi Hassan. Why not? The show goes on, baby. Let's do some of it. We don't got to do all of it. Man, he was on here for a while. I kind of wish I had like clips, but it's okay. Okay, so look, like I'm a numbers guy, and to you, Mehdi, I don't know because you are Muslim, but I don't understand how you say that Israel controls. All right, it's not a good accent. All right, let's see.
War and peace, yes. I'm sure in some domestic politics, tax rates, I'm sure there's
smaller stuff. And I will admit, all right, reluctantly enough, I will admit, say what you want about Mehdi Hassan, the guy's got a brain on him. He's a pretty good debater, okay? Sorry, somebody got to say it. He's not dumb, so he's a formidable foe.
Yeah, and domestically within Israel, I'm sure they are. When it comes down to the region, Israel's role in the region.
Tell me what the vision is. If you think, what do you think?
I got to do a session where I'm just responding to the chat. Someone said, that's interesting. Yeah, I could do that. One day. You can't have a stream without reacting to the numbers guy. Okay? Yeah, facts.
Their vision.
I mean, this is going viral. Everybody's reacting to it, so we'll see what happens. I saw a little bit of their argument on some clips on Twitter, but we'll we'll watch it together here. We'll have some fun.
What do you think Israel's vision is?
There's a best case scenario and there's a worst case scenario.
Okay.
The best case scenario is that they have this idea of we must be in a state of permanent war footing, right? I think there's a phrase for it, I forget the name, combat between the conflicts. There's some military doctrine that says even when we're not at war, we carry on doing preemptive strikes, we carry on doing cyber warfare, we carry on doing assassinations, so that Israel remains the regional hegemon. We keep our superiority, our military edge. We let everyone know in the region who's boss, even when we're not in a formal state of war.
I mean, yeah, when is Israel not fighting somebody in their multi-front war? It's either Lebanon, or it's either Gaza, or it's either something in the West Bank, Palestinian Jihad group. It's something. Iraq, it's something. It's always something.
That's the best case scenario, that this is just a security doctrine that says we will bomb and invade whoever we like just to remain top dog in the region. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is it's ideological, that these are fanatical, messianic people who believe that all of the territory is theirs, given to them by the Bible. I interviewed Naftali Bennett in 2017, nearly a
from the Nile to the Euphrates.
Decade ago for Al Jazeera. He was the education minister at the time. I never forget this interview. I said to him, we were talking about peace treaties and two-state solution, and he said, the Bible says it's ours. I'd never heard someone say it that bluntly to my face. I can't imagine Ilhan Omar going on TV and saying, the Quran says this, right? This guy's openly saying, the Bible says the land is ours. Where do you go with that? There's no debate after that, right? That's just a kind of religious, ethnic nationalist, messianic vision. So Benjamin Netanyahu, even though he's not a religious man, has signed off on a greater Israel. He was asked about whether he believes in it. He said, absolutely. The opposition leader, Yair Lapid, who's a kind of centrist, supposedly a liberal, he was asked after the Mike Huckabee, Tucker Carlson interview. He said, do you agree with Mike Huckabee? That all of the territories from the Bible, it's all yours?
Yeah, do you guys remember that? We reacted to that as well. Mike Huckabee screwed up big time.
Our borders are biblical. This is what the opposition leader said. Forget the right-wingers Smotrich and Ben-Gvir.
What do you think is the likelihood their vision becomes a reality?
Right now, more likely than not, because the United
99% going to happen.
States of America has allowed Israel to get away with a genocide.
How long? I mean, long term,
long term, no. Long term, it's perpetual war for perpetual peace.
And by the way, deep down inside, do you really think Trump wants this war to continue?
No. Trump doesn't like long wars.
No.
He likes short wars. That's why he's been humiliated by Iran, because he thought this would be over in a few days.
By the way, nobody thought Iran was going to be able to, not nobody. A lot of people on his camp, when they sat there and talked about it, it is a very fair argument to say that. No, let me make my point on what I'm saying. It is a very fair argument to say that unlike Venezuela, which we went in, we got Maduro and we're out.
Maduro.
Most likely, Cuba is going to be the same way as Venezuela, probably even easier when they go through and get it.
Sure.
Iran showed up strength to the world.
Yeah.
And you got to give them credit, no matter what anybody says, conservative or on the left.
You can give them credit militarily, obviously not politically, but Trump, I don't think we can defend him with nobody knew this. But he did this line recently. Nobody knew they were going to hit the Gulf states. We all knew they were going to hit the Gulf states. They've been saying this for years.
I called it, by the way. Just had to throw that in there. I said that in February. Anyways, we'll keep going.
We're going to hit the Gulf states.
Iran was going to hit the Gulf states.
Do you think
that's been their doctrine for years.
Do you think that unify the Gulf states even more?
No. I think we've wrecked our long-term relationship with the Gulf.
Tell me why.
I think in private, all of these Gulf states will, in public, they'll say what they got to say, but in private, they know the U.S. security umbrella does not extend to them anymore. They know that even if they give Donald Trump a $400 million plane, even if they put $500 million in his crypto business, Israel will always take precedence over them.
Do you think the Gulf states prefer Iran to be led by IRGC, or the story we saw recently with Pezeshkian, who's a moderate, stepping down because he's like everything's being run by. Who do you think the Gulf states would rather have?
I think the Gulf states are not a monolith, first of all, Patrick, because the UAE is very different to Qatar and Kuwait, right?
But they're neighbors.
They're neighbors, but they have different foreign policy.
Yeah, the UAE is Israel. I'll say it. The UAE is Israel. They are a direct security partner of Israel. They have a security axis. They've been closely aligned for a long time now.
The UAE is an outlier. The UAE is very hawkish, very pro-Israel, very pro-America, very anti-Iran, which is kind of crazy because, if the US and Israel move on with their lives, the UAE is exposed to Iran for the rest of their lives.
Isn't UAE succeeding the most out of most of the Gulf states?
Are they?
Financially?
Are they?
So
many businesses have cleared out. Tourism has fallen. It's a huge industry based on tourism.
I believe it's Qatar. Let's see. Let's find out. Let's see if I'm right. I believe it's Qatar.
For the time.
You think people are going to go back? I think my thing is...
I think so.
I think that their image has been permanently destroyed. I don't think you could put it back in the bottle. They had this image, especially to kind of white Westerners.
Oh my... Come on, I cook. Who's going to say I don't know my facts? Richest Gulf country is Qatar.
As this business, tourist, even residential utopia. You go there, there's no crime, you chill out, everything's cheaper, etc., etc. I think that's gone now. Once Iran has done this, I think they've destroyed that image. Now, if you're Amazon or you're whatever it is, Chase Bank, you're going to go back into Dubai, Abu Dhabi, knowing that Iran can then do this again at any time they want. As long as...
Yeah, and that's, me and my brother spoke about this several times. You got to think about this as well. Let's say this war ends tomorrow. Trump and Mujtaba Khamenei, who is the current supreme leader, the son of the one who was just killed previously on the February 28th strike, let's say Trump and Khamenei shake hands, they're best friends, we do diplomacy, sanctions are lifted, Iran lets go of the uranium, perfect world. As at least the conservative base likes to think is realistic, we know it's not, or the MAGA base, I should say. They don't speak for all conservatives. And you know, still, with that potential reality existing upon us, the Gulf states will suffer drastically as a result. Why? Iran has now displayed the capability that they have a ballistic weapons program, a ballistic missiles program rather, that can hit the Gulf states in seconds. And so real estate investors, anybody who wants to pump money into the country, anybody who wants to live in the country, anybody who wants to travel there for vacation, which is what these Gulf countries are known for, especially the United Arab Emirates, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and then the other countries like Kuwait, Qatar. These are tourist destinations, and they are beautiful countries, by the way. People are going to want to travel there when they understand that an Iranian missile or drone can hurl over their head at any time, and the United States will do nothing to stop it. We have no air defense there, and the air defense that we actually have existent there is not sufficient enough to stop Iranian ballistic missiles, especially their hypersonics. It takes no effort for Iran to hit the UAE. They're super close, just right across the water, and we saw what happened in the first few weeks. So the suffering that these countries will do from a perspective of tourism and economic growth is going to grow over time. It's not just going to stop when the war stops. No, there will be a dwindling, delayed effect. And these countries are moving away from oil as the hottest commodity to fund their government and their GDP. You've got to understand the world as a whole is eventually moving away from oil as energy source. It's just the facts. We are moving towards the digital age. Everything is going to be powered by these lithium ion batteries, whatever it is that powers these electric cars and EVs and things like that. And so oil may not be all the hype anymore. And if oil is not all the hype anymore, well, then these Gulf countries really better hope that they have some sort of tourism to factor into economic growth. Saudi Arabia, remember, the Crown Prince's plan for the Vision 2030, which is this like huge line in the middle of the desert with all these hotels and like this city within the desert, crazy technological advancement that he was planning on developing within the next 10 or 15 years. That's where they're leaning. They have to lean on tourism. Increasingly, the world will no longer pay them the same amount that they used to pay them for oil. And so they've got to figure something out, and they're trying to get ahead of the curve. But if Iran offers military destruction to these countries or the ability to destroy them militarily, that's going to hurt their goals and their long-term aspirations big time.
As Iran is still run by the same government, I don't think these Gulf states get that image back. And I think the Qataris understand that, even the Saudis understand that. They want a region, I think privately, and I may be wrong, and the few people in the Gulf I speak to say this to me, they recognize that Israel is the real problem in the region. They may not say
100%. They would just never say it publicly. 100%. Never forget, a Saudi spokesperson said in the beginning of the war, there's an obvious over-prioritization of defense for airspace in Israel. We just dropped for a second. Am I back? Am I back? Someone said do the shut it down. I should be back, guys. I should be back. Don't worry. Don't worry. We're here. We're here. We're here. We're here. We're here. Back? Okay. That happens sometimes. That's OBS. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. We're back. We're back. We're back. We're good. We're good. Refresh your pages, people. Anyways, where did I cut off?
Us fighting the war, but you're saying like the
that happens sometimes. Okay. Someone said I'm very worried right now. The audio is delayed. It does that. It'll come back. Refresh your page. So what I was saying, I don't even know where I cut off. So I'll just give you the long and short of what I said. UAE need money from tourism, okay? That's what I said. That's what I said. And what else did I talk about? Oh, the fact that Saudi Arabia and all the other Gulf countries realize we over-prioritize Israel and Israel's the actual problem starter in the Middle East. They just can't say that unless they'll lose U.S. military support. But I mean, think about that. We don't want to condemn Israel. This is what the Gulf countries are likely thinking. We can't publicly condemn Israel. We can't say screw the Abraham Accords because the U.S. won't back us. The U.S. won't give us money. The U.S. won't give us these military bases. And so now it's gotten to the point where the military bases don't even offer them protection. So they might just start saying the truth. That's something as well you may have to think about.
So publicly, some of them are signed up to the Abraham Accords. Like,
there's no real benefit in glazing Israel anymore. It does nothing except cause destruction, to be honest. So they might just be front-facing about it.
Bahrain, etc., UAE. But I think they understand that Israel is the destabilizing force in the region. It's Israel that bombed 6 countries in the Middle East last year. It wasn't Iran that did that. It's Israel that went to war now and brought the United States into this conflict and led to Iran bombing Kuwait and Qatar and Saudi Arabia and the UAE. And I think that is the situation we're in. I think you're going to see these Gulf states, if they're smart, making overtures to the China.
That's so annoying. Viewership dropped because we lagged out. That's so stupid. I don't know why OBS drops off like that.
And into the Russians in future years. They have to kind of diversify who they rely on.
Maybe it's me being a Syrian, maybe it's me being Armenian, maybe the fact that I lived in Iran could be the reason for this. But nobody, sells Israel as this incredibly powerful organization and brains than those who hate Israel.
Listen, it's not about, they're powerful, but it's really their influence that will eventually convert into real power. And this Section 224 is going to ensure that.
All they talk about is how powerful Israel is. I don't think there's anybody that's the Don King promoting how smart, intellectual, brilliant Israel is than those.
Guys, I'm not muted. When I lag out and OBS drops off, the stream glitches for some reason. Just refresh the page. Which, funny enough, you're not even going to hear me say that if you're... Okay.
Who cannot stand Israel?
Well, I'm not one of those.
But if
let me just go through the list. I'm not somebody who said Iran would roll over. I said Iran would make Iraq look like a walk in the park.
I'm talking about
right. I warned that Iran and America would not be able to destroy Iran in the way they thought they could destroy Iran. It was insane. It was hubris to think.
No, they're not trolling. It does that. It does that. Sometimes when I drop frames, it mutes for people.
They could do that. I've been saying that for 15 years. I've been saying it since Iraq, 2003, when I was a 23-year-old marching against that war. When Bush was thinking about Iran, I was saying.
Are you afraid of Israel?
Am I afraid of?
Are you afraid of Israel?
What do you mean?
Are you afraid of Israel's aspirations?
Oh yeah.
PBD is trying to downplay their influence and power. It's like, bro, come on, dude. They just unseated Thomas Massie as a foreign nation. Are we dead ass right now? Come on. They're pretty powerful.
Aspirations are different, right? Can they pull it off? I agreed with you that just because they have this messianic vision doesn't mean they're going to win.
Yeah. I mean,
I agree with that.
To me, it's like, okay.
No, they didn't win in Gaza.
Bro,
Patrick, I said in 2023,
yeah.
this whole plan, when people were like yourself and others were saying Israel has a right to self-defense, destroy Hamas, I said, you can't. There is no military solution to your problem.
Yeah, so you know what it is for me? Don't talk to Mehdi, because Mehdi's going to do this. No, I want to talk to Mehdi. No, I'm telling you, be careful. No, I want to talk to Mehdi. Oh, don't talk to Bibi, because I want to talk to him. I wish you had an hour and a half to talk. No, don't talk to Nick. No, don't talk to this guy. I want to talk to him. I don't sit there and see that, my God, everything, they're so powerful, they're going to control America, they do this, they do that. I mean...
Yeah, but you don't condemn them, you're not their enemy. You've historically supported them. So you have nothing to worry about. Try and condemn them, try and attack them, try and persuade people that they're powerful, be at the back end of or the front end really of their censorship, and then see how powerful they are. Isn't it funny how the people who never actually recognize Israel's influence and power are also the same people that never actually speak against Israel and their power? It's like you haven't felt it. That's why you don't see it. Try going against the needle for once, or going against the grain, rather. Sorry. Try actually pushing the narrative. Try going against the grain. Try condemning Israel for the genocide in Gaza. Try speaking against Israel for their onslaught in Lebanon. Try going against them for dragging Trump into a war in Iran. Try doing that and see how far it gets you. Then you'll quickly understand how much influence they have. So yeah, you wouldn't get it. You wouldn't feel it because you're not against them. You are with them. You are aligned with them. Unfortunately, that's just true. And I know he's not like this hardcore Zionist apologist, but he is, for all intents and purposes, somebody who pushes forward the actual mark for Israel. I was going to say something else, but we're on YouTube, so you get what I'm saying?
You kind of giving them too much credit.
I mean, you're mixing different things together, though. One thing is militarily, can they win on battlefields? No, not always. Hezbollah defeated them in 2000, famously. That was the first time they were defeated by an Arab force on a battlefield when they withdrew from southern Lebanon. They're back now.
Someone said, "Would you throw hands with PBD?" No, I don't. I don't even hate him. I don't have a problem with him. He'd just be wrong.
We were told Hezbollah was done. Do you remember a couple years ago? Oh, the pages and the assassination of Nasrallah. They're done. It was a paper tiger.
Another thing about Patrick Bet-David, he really loves the anti-Islam rhetoric, and I've spoken about that ad nauseum. So if you guys want to hear my take on that, you can let me know in the chat. But I'm not gonna repeat that point that I've already repeated a million times. But he loves the anti-Islam rhetoric, and that also supports the agenda of Israel because it gives them more basis for their offensive in the Middle East.
They just killed 30 Israeli soldiers in the last few weeks, right? They've injured hundreds more. Who knows what the real numbers are? So clearly they're not done for. Hamas is still around, and the Iranians still have, 70% of their missile stock, according to U.S. intelligence. So the idea that these were all paper tigers was bullshit. That's a different argument. I'm not a military expert. I'm not going to sit here and adjudicate, who has the strength in the field. Politically, though, in this country, does Israel still have power? Sure. They still have politicians who support them. They still have lobby groups that advocate on their behalf.
So does Qatar.
No, not on the level of Israel. Come on.
Oh, okay, let me ask you a question. If you had $5 billion to win over influence in people in America politically and inject your way of thinking, would you put that money to buy over congressmen and senators, or would you put that money into winning over kids? Where would you put your money?
Both.
No.
Either or.
Okay, then do diversify. Seriously. Use it as a mutual fund. You got $5 billion. How much you put in one? How much you put in the other one? Honestly.
I don't know.
I want you to think about it.
50-50. I think they're both important.
You think
you talk about when you say young people, you mean like TikTok?
Universities. I'm talking about universities, TikTok, social. Give money to universities, give money to places to get the kids influence. Where would you put the money in?
But let me take your example. Take it a step further. Okay, let's say I put it all in students. I win over young people. That's already happened. Have you seen the polling? The young people hate Israel.
I know.
But does it translate into policy? No, because the Congress still controls the purse strings. So I'll give you one example.
And there's been no money pumped into the idea of hating Israel, by the way. That happened organically because they killed 100,000 people for no good reason.
8% of Democrats support Israel's war in Gaza. 8%, according to a poll last year. In Congress, it's the other way around. It's like 80% of Democrats support Israel, only 8 or 10% are voting against weapons or genocide. I'm ballpark figures here. So what's the disconnect? The disconnect is we have a Congress that doesn't represent the public on either side of the divide. I don't think the Republican Party fully represents its base, but more so, Democratic Party certainly doesn't represent its base on Israel, the leadership. Look at these primaries. We're sitting on a day where there's going to be a bunch of primaries. So my big point here is, yes, it's great that young people have been won over. It's great that everyone under the age of 50 in the United States of America, whether Republican or Democrat, does not want more weapons going to Israel. That's the latest polling. Under the age of 50, everyone.
That makes sense to me.
Right? But Congress does. So the disconnect, this is why we have such a crisis of democracy. This is why Israel matters so much in our political system. It's not just a foreign policy issue. It's an issue of our democracy where we have members of Congress and a president who does not follow American will, does not follow the will of the voters. And so to answer your question, yeah, you do need to spend money lobbying Congress because ultimately they're the ones voting on weapons. They're the ones voting on aid. They're the ones voting to...
Very well answered, I must admit. He put that together well.
Censor our speech, saying anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. All of that stuff is coming out of Congress. And people say, oh, Qatar and this. I just gave you an example. The Qataris gave him a $400 million plane. The Emiratis gave him $500 million for his crypto fund. The Saudis have sponsored multiple multi-million-dollar golf tournaments at his properties, hotels. Did it come in useful? When it came down to it, he picked Israel. He picked Miriam Adelson. He picked Benjamin Netanyahu. Yeah. He picked AIPAC. He picked Marco Rubio.
I don't know about that.
He picked all these people. What do you mean? We've seen it with our eyes.
I don't know about that. Listen, let me ask you this. Do you think, and by the way, you didn't answer my question. So I want to stay on the money part, and then I'm going to...
Yeah, he did. He literally just answered you.
I did answer. I said, I could spend it all on the kids. It doesn't matter.
No, but so
because ultimately, Congress is still more important.
So you would put all the money in Congress and Senate?
No, both. I said split.
You would do 50-50?
50-50. Win over the people, and then win over the people who represent the people.
So where does Qatar put their money? They put $6.5 billion in universities. Where does China put their money? $5.5 billion in universities. What type of influence do you think they got long term?
Are we doing
this? You think long term? Like you think China thinks short term? You think Qatar thinks short term? You think they're trying to buy influence long term when they get in front of the kids?
You think? Do you have evidence? It's a serious question.
The dollar?
No, I mean no. I'm talking about. Do you have evidence that? Well, first of all, what Chinese investment has gone into universities?
Bro, there is no. Somebody send help, bro. I'm literally having forget it.
Do you want to pull it up, Rob? I mean, this you know.
I know the Qataris are sponsored. I've been to Georgetown, Qatar.
Oh yeah. Qatar has too much influence in the United States. China has too much. Sure. Let's eradicate their influence. But we cannot start there because they just don't have nearly as much as Israel. Like, bro, what?
They spend a lot of money on U.S. universities, but it's great. I'm asking about what's China's sponsored university?
Oh, China's given donations to
the Chinese government sponsors American universities. I did not know this.
Bro, if we weren't on YouTube, I could have a really sick segment right now where we go over several presidents of several Ivy League schools and all the donors to those Ivy League schools. It's okay.
Let me pull up.
Got to be careful where I'm at.
To show my ignorance.
By the way, I don't know where the money is coming from, but I'll show you here. China has invested an estimated 5.6. I was short by $1 billion.
Okay.
6.4 billion in American universities over the recent decade, making it one of the largest foreign. So why are they doing
No, hold on. You didn't read the third sentence.
Which is what
these funds you think research partnerships with the Chinese is making kids on campus pro-China?
No. It's not what I'm saying.
Okay,
Mehdi, you're very smart. So you went to Oxford. You got the PPE degree. It's like not the PPP loan. You got the legit PPE degree, right? Do you not think if these
Patrick Bet-David's #1 strategy is giving somebody he's arguing with credit before he tries to take down what they're saying?
Schools are getting this types of money. Which phone call you think they're picking up?
Oh, you think we know, Patrick, because we just saw what happened the last 3 years. Did Colombia go pro-Israel or pro-Qatar?
But what did Colombia do?
I'm sorry. What is the point of this conversation? Immediately just introduce the fact that if you have a visa and you speak negatively about Israel, you are deported. Did we forget that policy? Did we forget that's real right now in the United States? Did we forget that Bill Ackman, who is a multi-billionaire, blacklisted students who protested for Palestine and at all these Ivy League schools, and now they can never get good jobs, good paying, prestigious jobs now? We're talking about China and Qatari influence? Give me a break. Oh, brother.
They went pro-Israel. They silenced all the pro-Palestinian.
But what did they do? But what did they do?
They rolled over for Donald Trump and they rolled over for the Israel lobby.
What was the event that happened that got them to get there?
I don't know which event.
Why did they do that?
I don't know. I don't know where you're going.
You follow the stories. You tell me, who was it? It was 3 universities, right? Columbia was one of them.
And
the other
there was
two?
a bunch of universities that cracked down on
why did they do
pro-Palestine
that?
centers.
Why did they do that?
Multiple reasons. Pressure from politicians
Okay.
who are pro-Israel.
You think maybe
Pressure
they
from
screwed up
donors
as
who
well?
are pro-Israel. Pressure from activist groups. This whole ridiculous debate where we conflate criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. I remember when I launched...
I'm not with that. Just so you know, like in Florida, when they're saying you can't debate and criticize Israel, I'm not part of that camp.
Not just that. DeSantis is one of the many governors.
You may not be part of that and say it explicitly, but all the rhetoric that you're implying right now is in line with that. You're trying to say that they don't have any influence. That's a ridiculous statement that nobody who's being intellectually honest would agree upon.
I'm not part of that
who have
camp.
said that if you're an American business that engages in BDS, you can't get contracts with the state. That's insane. That American business can't do what it wants to do.
But by the way, what I'm trying to tell you is...
Bro, do you remember when Texas got hit with the hurricane and there was some legislation that said that if anybody who was affected by the hurricane had a historic past of anti-Semitic or anti-Israel remarks, they wouldn't get relief funds? Do you remember that? Like, what are we talking about? I could pull that up. Hold on.
I think the reasonable people are not with that. Short term, some of these things may come and go. Long term, they're not. I had Randy, what's his last name? Randy Fine. I had him on and I asked him the question
He's a racist.
about...
Bro, what are we talking about? This is like I'm having a field day here. Texas City requires Israel pledge for hurricane relief. And this was 2017. Hold on, there's a more recent instance. Let's see if we could find it. There was one that was more recent, I swear. Was it Texas? Somebody in the chat remind me of the state. I can't remember. I think this was it. Yeah. But it's like, bro, you can't, you can't.
Where he's at.
You can't tell me that's not real.
I think you may have even tweeted something about it when we talked about it. I asked him a couple questions pointed whether he was pro-America, America first, or Israel first. If you're in America, hey,
Somebody said WTF. Yeah, that's a red pill. You didn't know that, did you? Yeah, bro. If your home got absolutely eaten up by a fucking Category 10 hurricane. I know, Category 5. If your home got destroyed by a Category 5 hurricane, but you didn't say that you support Israel, no money for you. Like, you can't make that shit up. That's real. That's real. So
I have a problem with you not being.
I'm sorry. Could you imagine if that was the case with Qatar? Is it North Carolina? Okay. Good job. Somebody clocked it in the chat. Yes, because I remember it was more recent than that. I do remember the Texas one. Let's see if we could find it here. Like the video if you haven't already. Let's see. Where was it? Was it this hurricane? You guys sure it's North Carolina? Anyways, we'll keep going here.
In America first,
Sorry.
but I want to go back to this. If they give $6 billion, you think they're dumb that they're just giving $6 billion to universities? You don't think they want things in return?
No,
you don't
think everyone.
Think
I think you made that point earlier. There are many lobbies trying to get their way. I'm not disputing that there are many lobbies.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm the one who says let's not treat the Israel lobby as a unique lobby. People are like, oh my God, AIPAC. I always say AIPAC, NRA,
great, all of them.
Big Pharma, all of these people.
All of them.
I want to get money out of politics. I'm on the
I do
left.
as well.
I'm a Bernie, Elizabeth Warren.
I want to get money out of politics.
Let's get rid of Citizens United. Yeah, Citizens United,
Yeah.
West Supreme Court decision.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but let me come back to your direct point about influence. I'm not disputing that they're spending money, they're lobbying, everyone's doing it. I'm saying Israel's winning. And the evidence is what's happened.
See, I'm saying Israel's losing.
I've not only do I have a kid in college, I have multiple Muslim friends, leftist friends with kids in colleges.
kids are now Jewish?
I have kids who've been arrested.
Yeah.
I have kids who've been doxxed. I know kids who have been suspended. I know kids who have been expelled because of their criticism of Israel. I watched a video of Rumeysa Öztürk, a young Turkish student at Tufts, be picked up by 8 ICE agents and detained because she wrote an op-ed in her student paper saying we should divest from Israel. And Marco Rubio had her detained for a year, right? So don't tell me that Qatar is winning this argument. Qatar is not winning the argument on capital.
Thank you very much.
So,
or the fact that if your home is swarmed by a hurricane, but you said something negative about Israel in the last 2 years, you don't get any money for it.
Just a complete, last 3 years is a complete denial.
I get your argument, but I would dispute it in the following way. Everybody is trying to win influence. Everybody.
Agreed.
And they're spending money.
True, but only one party really has it.
So no matter what it is, everybody. But the question is, whose money is working and who's not? The part where I go that's not working is, do you think Israel's popularity in America has increased or decreased the last 5 years?
No, because
the popularity has decreased, but the support is the same.
That's a different argument. That's because people saw a genocide live stream to their phones, right? And you can't buy your way out of it.
It's more than that's one of it.
That's one of the big issues.
It's one of the bigger issues, but
that's the largest issue. Everything else takes a very wide backseat. It's the largest issue. The situation of Gaza, without a doubt, is the main reason why people are upset with Israel. You don't kill 70,000, 80,000 plus non-armed, non-combatant civilians and just get away with it. So
more than that. So whatever they did, like even when Charlie Kirk, the letters came out when he was having a conversation with Bibi, and I don't know if it was the 7 things he wrote, the 6 things. Do you remember that when he wrote a letter? I don't know if you remember.
I talk about it all the time, Charlie Kirk's letter to Netanyahu.
But
I wasn't
he asked him to win the media war.
Big Charlie Kirk reader. You'll be shocked to hear.
Yeah, well, you would have liked him. It was a special
No,
guy.
he didn't like me. He wanted me deported. He called for me to be...
Patrick McDavid trying to bridge the gap. I think that you would have liked Charlie Kirk. He was a good guy. Okay, I think he was an influential guy. I think you guys would have agreed on a lot, actually. No, he would have had me deported, actually. It's like, bro, give it up. Why are you trying to bridge that gap? Like, Mehdi Hassan and Charlie Kirk are so widely opposed on a spectrum. It's actually laughable.
Deported from this country because he's such a free speech champion. He was.
So what was his reason for it?
Because I said something about COVID that he didn't like.
What did you say about COVID?
Something about the whole school. My position on lockdowns, vaccines, whatever it was. He didn't like it, but instead of debating me on it, he said, "Who's this guy? He should be deported from the country."
Hey, that's not funny. That's crazy. That's crazy. Niggas just see a brown guy and say deport him. I don't agree with that. That's not cool. That's not cool. Deadass.
Can you tell me specific what it was, Rob?
Rob
can
can pull it up.
You
There's
find
a
out?
lot of.
Now, if you said something crazy shit on Twitter
Hold
and
on,
he
hold
responds
on.
back
Even
to you,
hold on. Even if I said something crazy, is
he
the First
can say
Amendment
crazy too.
First Amendment doesn't cover
but
crazy.
His First Amendment he can also say that.
But
That's
you
part
think
of
we
his
should
First
threaten
Amendment.
people with deportation?
I don't know. You said some crazy shit. What did you say?
No, I didn't say anything crazy. I'm just saying. Even let's say I did say something crazy.
No, but even let's
if
just
I
say
didn't
he
say anything
said-
crazy.
But let's just say he said that. That's his freedom to be crazy.
Of course, it's his freedom.
Yeah.
I'm not going to like the guy. You're like, I would have agreed with
that's
him.
a different
That's how we
story.
got
No,
onto
no,
Kirk.
I
I'm
get
like,
it.
why would I
Yeah,
agree
yeah.
with the guy who hated
No, no,
Islam?
you don't have
He
to.
hated Islam and he wanted me deported.
That's a different story.
That's a different story.
But by the way,
Rob is fast.
Rob is fast.
We need you, Rob.
Charlie.
This is speed.
Charlie was a phenomenal guy. But let me go back to it.
We'll have to agree to disagree.
Yeah, that's totally fine. So, but where was I going with this? We were talking about the influence, and then we went to universities. What topic were we on? Until I brought up.
Nigga said deport him. Because it's just like, yo, you know, it's so disrespectful. Like, you disagree with somebody and they're brown, you're just like, deport. It's like, all right, bro. But that's not funny because they say that, hey, they'd say that to me. They'd say that to me. No, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. Look, I was not a fan of Charlie Kirk. I disagreed with him on so much, but that guy's no longer alive. So no point in attacking him.
Charlie? Rob, do you know where I was
You were
going?
saying talking to Netanyahu and the stuff.
Oh, yeah. When he talked to Netanyahu with the 7 points, and he said to him, he said, you're losing the kids. Whatever you're doing, the propaganda, you're losing the kids. So it's not working.
You are losing the kids.
If you say the influence of AIPAC or whatever they're spending their money to win over Congress and all these other guys, guess what happened? I think they gave money to John Cornyn. AIPAC did. He lost. He's been there for 40 plus years. Paxton won.
Yeah.
So what happened with that guy winning? He was a guy that was not even supposed to win. He had issues. Letters came out with his wife, all this other stuff. It wasn't a pretty thing. So I don't know if their influence. Don't get me wrong. When you talk about Mary, you know, she's put up some real money there. I mean,
Trump's been very open about it.
she's put up some real money there.
And can I say, I don't think we're disagreeing that much. I think we're not actually disagreeing. I agree with you. I'm the first to say I'm very happy to see young people switching on this. I never thought a day would come in my lifetime where polls showed that the American public supports Palestine more than Israel, which we're now seeing from Pew and Gallup. That's an amazing change in public opinion for people like me. But what I'm trying to say to you is all of that is valueless, worthless. Why the AIPAC calculation might make sense to AIPAC is, well, who cares what public opinion say? If we can, it is short term, but if we can control, but they don't think long term.
No.
Maybe the Chinese do.
Let's take a look at that. Pew and Gallup, it says here, recent polling from Pew Research Center and Gallup highlights a historic shift in public opinion with global and U.S. sentiments trending more favorably towards Palestinians and increasingly unfavorable towards the Israeli government. U.S. sympathies Gallup, a landmark Gallup poll, showed that 41% of Americans sympathize more with Palestinians compared to 36% who sympathize more with Israelis. This marks the first time in 25 years of tracking that Palestinians surpassed Israelis in U.S. public sympathy. Interesting.
Israelis think short term.
No,
the
I'm
Israelis
not
think
talking Israeli.
Okay.
I'm talking about those who wanted to make sure, like, whatever their belief is, whatever your belief is, folks that are not pro-Israel, right?
Yes.
And hey.
Yeah, they've not won hearts and minds.
But, like, Patrick, what are you? He's, like, not clear on his position.
We agree on that.
Oh, no. I think I go to schools and I talk to kids. First thing I ask is, who do you watch? Used to be Charlie Kirk. Who is it now? Really? What's your position with Israel? Oh, boom. I mean, it's like 0 to anger towards Israel. So guess what that means? Whatever the propaganda was, correct or not, it worked for those that are anti-Israel.
But guess what's
They've
scary?
made a lot of progress.
But guess what's scary?
What's
when
that?
the pro-Israel side hear you say that, when they see the numbers of people watching Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson or Nick Fuentes, God help us, when they hear that, they don't go,
bro's mad.
Shit, we need to work harder to win hearts and minds. What they say is, we need to crack down on democracy and free speech because that's the only way we stay in power. That is why Peter Beinart, my good friend who used to be a hardcore Zionist, now a liberal.
Or set up a system to where the United States can never resist Israel again. And that's really what it seems like they're working towards.
That works anymore.
Peter makes the point that
because Candace still has her platform. Tucker still has his platform. They're on YouTube. You know, so I'm not sure if that's actually the move there. I would disagree. I'd push back on that. I would say it's not censorship. It's actually just setting up a system to where they can get what they want despite public opinion. I think that's what it really is.
You're going to see a lot of Zionist groups in this country allying with the right. Traditionally, American Jewish groups have been pro-Democrat, liberal, but now they're allying with Trump and MAGA.
I'm not saying censorship is not an element of their strategy, of their strategic campaign, but I just don't think it's as strong as it was back in 2017, 2018. Those were times where these topics would get you destroyed, no questions asked. And we're living in a much different time now.
Because they see a way of suppressing speech and joining with authoritarian forces because they can't win the argument fair and square.
I think that's a mistake.
It is a mistake.
But
that's what they're doing. Jonathan,
I understand that. But what I'm saying to you is it's very important to win over the kids. Very important to win over kids. And when I see China, Qatar putting that kind of money in schools, you know, their long-term thinking is let's win these kids over and then let's see what happens. So I don't think Israel is winning when it comes down to winning over.
Did you see the Jerusalem Post conference in New York this week?
No.
They hosted a conference that ties in with the Israel Day crazy parade. They had Ronald Lauder, the Estee Lauder guy, the billionaire, giving a speech. His son-in-law is the Federal Reserve guy, Kevin Warshie. I can't remember his name.
Is he Jewish? He's Jewish?
Ronald Lauder is a very leading figure in the American Jewish community, big supporter of Israel. He gave a speech at Jerusalem Post conference, and in that speech,
there you go.
He said that Mossad and Shin Bet, the Israeli intelligence, domestic and foreign intelligence, should be working hard to get American kids to support Israel, influence operations.
Not going to work. It's not going to work. It is absolutely not going to work. Fleeting gain. And again, there is this revisionist Zionist project. You must understand this. It is subtle. It's not public. It's not popular. It's not mainstream, but it is coming. And if you're reading between the lines, you can see it coming. Pay attention to Section 224. Pay attention to what has happened with Charlie Kirk and Netanyahu in their relationship before he was assassinated. Pay attention to the growing unfavorability of Israel, especially for anybody under the age of 50 in the United States. With all of these facts existing, do you think that the PR machine and getting control over the PR machine is going to magically win back the hearts of people who just watched a country genocide Palestinians for the last 2.5 years? Still to this day, they're bombing them for no reason and killed over 100,000 innocent people, non-combatants, many of them being under the age of 18 and many of them being children. You're never going to reverse that. That's a permanent effect. And so the only way to go from here is to no longer depend on the United States for aid, no longer depend on the United States for approval. That is the Zionist revisionist project. That is what they want to move towards. And so whatever they can milk out of the U.S. now will certainly be utilized. And so there is a place for that, and that exists. I'm not saying it's not, but I am saying look ahead. Pay attention to what's coming. No longer will it be the situation where they crack down on anybody who just says, no. You can't say that. Take away his platform. Take away his money. Ban him from that airline. Ban him from this bank account. Do this and do that. It won't be that anymore. And so people get this false sense of relaxation where they go, we're getting our First Amendment rights back. Things are getting better. But it's like, no, you're not ready. They're winding up the widest right hook and you're not paying attention. You got to get ready to dodge that. And that's going to be the fact that they won't need the money anymore. They will either get it for somebody else, or Section 224 will grow to something that we cannot no longer contain, we cannot control. And so because of that, you will actually notice that they can pull out influence from the United States and they can utilize our power without approval from Congress, without approval from politicians, without going through legislation and the lengthy process of dealing with the public approval, with the lengthy process of actually getting in politicians who have this favored or vested interest with Israel because of Israel being embedded in their pockets. No longer will it be that. They are creating a structure of a chain that is unbreakable. And they're doing it while Trump is in office because this is the most opportunistic period of time in which they'll actually be able to achieve such a goal. So as much as I can understand why somebody would say they're going to ramp up on the censorship, they do, and they censor, and that's what they do. There is that element, certainly, and so I'm not denying or negating it, but there's a bigger move at play here. And it's a big winding, slow swing. It's not a jab, you know what I mean? Like, it's not something quick, but it's like a very slow, winding punch. And it's like if you look between the lines, you can kind of understand that's the next play there. That's the next play.
Openly called for it in a speech. There's a clip doing that. It's insane, right? So when you're talking about, this is what I'm saying to you. It's not that they don't know what's happening, but their solutions are so batshit crazy.
Go back to that story.
And so authoritarian.
Israel is losing the information war.
So they get it. They agree with you and me.
Yeah.
But their solutions are scary as shit. They're authoritarian.
It's not going to work today, though.
I hope it doesn't work.
You know why it's not going to work? You know why it's not going to work today? Why is it not going to work? Are you with MSNBC today?
No.
Okay, where are you at?
I'm independent.
What can you talk about?
Anything I want.
Anything you want.
Yeah.
As long as you don't say something crazy that you get a strike on YouTube, you're good to go.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Look at TikTok. when Mitt Romney had Antony Blinken on stage. Do you remember that famous conversation a couple of years back? And he said, everyone's like, oh, they're going after TikTok because of China, because of China, because of China. And Mitt Romney just sits with Blinken and says, every time I go on TikTok, you see 6 times, 7 times as many pro-Palestinian posts as pro-Israel posts. We got to do something about that. Blinken's nodding. I'm like, Mitt, you're not supposed to say that out loud. You're supposed to say that in a smoke-filled room. He said it on stage, right? He made it clear that the TikTok, taking over TikTok by the Ellisons and co. was always about Israel more than it was about China. And that does worry me because you could say, oh, well, I wonder today if, God forbid, the
And this is what they always do. Trump banned TikTok for 48 hours. Remember that? By the way, I was so mad I couldn't doom scroll anymore. And he said, China, China, China. And sure, there's some element there, but it's like, no. You know, we know what it really is. And it's the same thing in 2017 and 2016 when Trump was getting elected. They were saying that he's doing these weird conspicuous things with China. No, it was Israel. So, you know, it's always like this lie. But yeah, anyways, that's look, this is a really long podcast. These guys went at it for 2.5 hours. We'll wrap it up there. We can continue with my brother because it's really, really good conversation. Look, Mehdi Hassan, I disagree with him on so much. I don't really like him like that, but I must admit he's pretty intelligent. So it's always interesting to talk to somebody else like Patrick Bet-David, see where they agree. And he's pretty good on a lot of this stuff. But yeah, it was a good stream, guys. Really enjoyed. Let me see if I had any super chats before I close out here. Okay, none. And look, I see the Discord chat. I'll be honest with my Discord people. You guys are sending in clips. I'm just looking at these clips like I want to react to this, but I like low-key can't. I'm limited in what I can say, guys. I'll be honest. I want to maintain a clean platform here as much as I possibly can for obvious reasons. So forgive me if, you know, I can't react to your clips or anything you send. At some point, we'll figure out a way to get around that. But, you know, for now, we're on YouTube. I got to somewhat be cognizant of the rules and stuff like that, you know. So for better or worse, I apologize. But we're doing it. We're doing the stream. We're doing the stream. But anyways, section 228, no, 224. But anyways, oh, Tina, you don't know what it is? Just Google it. Google it. Or scrub back in the stream. I spoke about it. All right, guys. Love all of you. It was a really good stream. I have a lot of fun on here every other night when I'm going live. We went for about 3.5 hours, so pretty lengthy stream compared to what I usually do. It's usually capped off at about 2 or 2.5 flat. And so we covered a lot, but there was a lot of dense news to go over. Love all of you guys. I'll be back here most likely tomorrow. I know I'm always saying stuff, so I'll just actually start to say until next time because I'm always saying tomorrow and then there is no tomorrow. But have a great night. Love all of you guys. Don't forget to check out the Instagram clips page, which is right here on the screen, Ryad Pilled. Okay, all my clips are up on here. If you want to follow the personal Instagram as well, it is right here. That is Ryad F__. I'm going to start to announce when I'm live on here, but also with this page, I'm careful for reasons that I can't state just yet. But check it out. You know, we're getting shredded. Yo, it's June. If you're not lean, what are you doing? Look at that. You kidding? If you're not lean, what are you doing? Lean is law. Okay, lean is law. In the Big 26, no one cares about how much you can bench press. No one cares about how much you can squat. What we care about is, are you vascular? Do you have a decent amount of muscle mass? And are you lean? All right? If the answer is no, get to work. All right? And the work starts in the kitchen. Make better choices. Make better choices. Anyways, love you guys, and I'll see you soon. God bless. Have a great rest of your night, all right? Peace out.